A massive combat fortress in the middle of the sea is seen by the heroes group. Inside the fortress, the heroes come face to face with huge robotic creatures ready to attack them. The group becomes afraid of the creatures, which are 80% immune to both magic and physical attacks and have already eliminated 5 S-class mercenaries. Our cold and calculating hero tells the group to relax and casts a calamity-level magic circle in the sky. With the magic circle, he makes gold coins rain down on the enemies. With the rain of coins, the enemies stop attacking. Emma says that the boss spent 5,000 coins on a book that contained the creature's weaknesses. One of those weaknesses was that the creatures were thirsty for gold, and as long as the group had gold, they could distract them. One of the heroines points out that the floor is covered in a corrosive liquid that is dissolving millions of gold coins. Emma remarks that this amount doesn't even compare to 1% of the boss's wealth. Then the boss removes a cloak he was wearing and reveals his legendary armor, each piece worth millions of gold, and draws his arcane shotgun. In a tone of superiority, he says that with money, he can do whatever he wants. A flashback is shown of 2 years ago involving Emma, one of the heroines of the group. After traveling for 7 years, Emma arrives at the place to summon the heroes of the people called the Sacred Fountain. Emma begins rummaging through her backpack, looking for the items needed to summon the heroes, finding a golden horn, a skull, and a dragon's tear. She places the items in front of the fountain and starts praying to the great hero of courage. At the same time, the headquarters building of Group G is shown. An assistant tells her boss that he is now the second richest person in the world, losing only to Musk. The boss says he needs to surpass Musk as quickly as possible so Musk will become part of Group G. Then the assistant leans closer to the boss's ear and begins to whisper, mentioning he has worked overtime for many months. Approaching him even more, the assistant starts to seduce her boss. At that moment, the boss merely asks if she has completed her work. She says no, and then the boss shows his anger toward her, saying the salary he pays is for her to be a proper spa assistant. A stack of documents is handed to the assistant, and her boss demands that they all be delivered tonight, requiring extra hours. Right away, the assistant thinks to herself that she regrets flirting with her boss, who only cares about money. In his office, the boss stands up and says that in this world, everything has a price, and the most powerful weapon here is money, affirming that he must become the most powerful person. At that very moment, he is summoned at the sacred fountain without any clothes on. People in the plaza around the fountain begin to laugh at the boss's lack of clothing. Then the woman who summoned him says she finally succeeded. The boss drags this woman into an alley and starts questioning her, asking who she is, where he is, and why he appeared there. Embarrassed, the woman asks the summoned individual to put on a change of clothes and to speak slowly. The boss refuses, repeating that he earns $300,000 per second and gives the woman only 5 seconds to explain the situation. The woman quickly begins to tell a legend foretelling a disaster in that world, and that 5 heroes from different worlds would be summoned to save it. For now, the boss refuses to be part of this, and the woman does not understand, saying he is destined to be a hero. Worried about his company, the boss says he has no time to play a world-saving game and asks to be sent back to his world. Then the woman explains that in the summoning ritual, it is not possible to send people back. This situation causes the boss to snap, and he climbs the tower, intending to jump after realizing he will lose his company and all his property. The woman quickly climbs the tower and stops the boss by hugging him from behind. The boss's stomach growls with hunger, and the woman hears it, offering him a pouch of food with a smile, telling him not to lose hope. Seeing this gesture, the boss remembers his younger sister encouraging him never to give up. After that, the boss calms down and says it's been a long time since he faced a difficulty like this. The boss then takes the food and tells the woman to explain about the world and the heroes while he eats. But upon biting into the bread, he realizes it's as hard as a rock, screaming in pain for the whole city to hear. In pain, he asks the woman if she gave him a stone to eat, but she explains that it's bread that was kept for a long time and needs to be licked first. Then she starts licking the bread in the chief's hand, but it doesn't help at all because the chief still can't eat. The chief asks if the woman has any other food, but that was the last bread she had, and she'd been fasting for 5 days to save it just for him. Next, the chief angrily questions her, asking if she really spent 5 days without eating just because of that steam-baked bread that feels like a stone. Surprised, the chief realizes the woman is so poor she can't even feed herself. Then he asks if the woman doesn't receive anything from the order. Confused, the woman asks why she would receive money from the order. The chief then asks if, because she summoned a hero, there should be some relationship between her and the order. It's explained then that the order only teaches saving the world, and that's not considered a job but rather a sacred mission. Furious, the chief says it's completely irrational that he was summoned to help save the world without payment, without food, and without clothing. With a shy smile, the woman says she prepared a sacred gift exclusively for the hero of virtue. She then pulls out and presents a powerful sword to the King of Virtue. The chief is surprised that a sword of this caliber would be given by the order, which doesn't provide food or even clothes. Looking more closely, the chief notices runes carved on the sword, covering its entire body with a sophisticated design. The woman says that according to the records, if the bearer helps 100 people with no selfish motives, he will receive the approval of the King of the Sword of Virtue. The chief, feeling excited, asks the woman if he is the owner of the sword, since the sword is exclusive to the heroes of virtue. The woman then confirms it, and thinks to herself that no man can resist the beauty of a fine weapon. Right afterward, the chief heads to a shop to find out how much this sword he just received is worth. Crying desperately, the girl clings to the hero's arms, asking what he's doing. The hero then explains to her that since the sword is now his, he can do whatever he wants with it, and he decides that in the current situation, money is more useful than the sword. Still crying, the girl argues with the hero, saying that the sword is legendary and has a history spanning thousands of years. After the sly hero learns that it's a legendary sword, he uses that fact to raise the selling price with the merchant, asking him to analyze it carefully. The merchant then notices that the texture and quality are excellent, and that it should be worth more than 500 gold coins, but he also suspects that the hero might have stolen it. Because of that, the merchant plans to take advantage of the situation and profit off the girl and the hero. Then the merchant tells the hero that the sword's forging is good, but the quality of its texture and the materials used are not of high quality. Having said that, he offers 200 gold coins for the sword, claiming it's to avoid a loss. With a frustrated expression, the hero pulls the girl and they leave the shop. The girl asks if the hero finally recognized that this sword shouldn't be sold, and the hero replies that the merchant was a con artist. Using his negotiation skills, our hero says that conventional methods shouldn't be used to deal with swindlers and counts to 3. Right then, the desperate merchant calls them back to negotiate, saying he isn't a scammer. In his thoughts, the hero admits he doesn't know the sword's material value but understands that refusing the first offer is the right way to create room for a higher price. The merchant then apologizes and takes the two of them into a back room, serving them food and asking them to talk more calmly. The girl is surprised by the food set on the table, asking if it's free because she hasn't eaten for 5 days. Trying to make amends, the merchant asks the hero's name, but our hero says he doesn't want to waste time with unprofessional people and asks for the manager. With a nervous tone, the merchant tells them to sit and wait for the manager to come. The hero then creates psychological pressure, forcing the negotiator's replacement and expanding the price range. Our hero notices the girl is hesitant to eat the food on the table and asks why she isn't eating if she's been 5 days without any food. Then the girl offers and asks the hero to eat everything, saying she will eat the stone bread she had in her pocket. Making a guess, the hero says she doesn't want to eat because she would feel guilty, thinking the food was obtained by selling the sword. With a sad look, the girl then asks if they really need to sell the sacred sword. Thus, the hero says that as a hero, he must act according to the current situation rather than following the sacred book. Then, moved by his words, the girl accepts what the hero says with a smile on her face. Our hero tells the girl that selling the sword is temporary and that in the future he will get it back, also asking her affectionately to believe in him and continue their journey together to overcome hardships. Extending his hand, the hero asks the girl if she agrees. With tears in her eyes and a smile on her face, the girl takes the hero's hand and says she accepts. Right after, our hero turns around with a wicked expression, implying he manipulated the girl with his words. Then the boss asks the girl to help him cooperate when the store manager arrives. While the door to the room opens, the hero assumes the manager is an old man, as he prefers to negotiate with older people. After the door opens, they see that in fact, the manager is a cute girl with pink hair and eyes, bunny ears, and a skirt. In a very shy voice, the manager asks if it was that gentleman who came to negotiate the price of a sword. Startled by the manager's appearance, the boss spits out all the coffee he was drinking and asks if she is really the manager and not a bunny mascot. The girl then finds the manager very cute and jumps in front of her, grabbing her bunny ears. In response, the manager reacts timidly but, enjoying the attention, says not to touch her ears. The hero quickly pulls the girl back and says it's disrespectful and rude to go after someone's ears out of nowhere. The girl apologizes, saying she couldn't help it after seeing such cute ears. With a timid expression, the manager says it's fine, thinking to herself that at least the human still seems normal. Approaching the manager, the hero gives the girl an example by gently asking the manager if he may see her ears. The manager is startled, thinking the hero might be even more perverted. Already seated in the room, the hero apologizes, saying he was only making a joke to lighten the mood, and then asks permission to introduce himself. The boss makes up a story, introducing himself as Gordon G. Parwood Jr., a wealthy and very evil aristocrat. This noble lived a good life of extravagance but passed away due to an illness. After the noble passed, the hero inherited his position and all his fortune, thus living a life of luxury. After some time, he found a guiding light that freed his soul from darkness. That light was named Emma, who taught him to be kind and that materialism has no value. And so, in the last 5 years, he left his businesses and family to be kind and help the poor, spending all his wealth. He says, pointing to the girl, that she taught him everything about love and kindness and helped him regain his conscience. The seller thinks something is off after hearing the hero's story, so he asks if the hero is selling the sword to help poor people. The hero confirms, saying there are many people in the city with problems, and he wants to help them. In tears, the manager believes the hero and tells him he's incredible, introducing herself with a smile as Dokaka, a stone rabbit and the store's manager. Right afterward, the boss asks Dokaka to honestly appraise the sword that was left as his family's treasure. Dokaka takes the sword in her hands and begins smelling it and biting it to analyze its quality. Thus, Dokaka says she set a price of 1,000 gold coins, but if the hero isn't satisfied, she offers 5,000 gold coins for the sword. Emma says that the sword is indeed a sacred weapon exclusive to the hero of virtue, but the seller still doubts it, saying it's made of black steel. Before all this, the hero had already researched the city's income level and concluded that 1 gold coin can feed a person for 60 days. The seller tells the manager that they only have 5,300 gold coins in their safe, but Dokaka asks him to trust her. Our hero thinks to himself that he can now raise the sword's price since they've already shown their trump card. Using his manipulation skills, the hero says he thought Dokaka would understand his desire to do a good deed and give an honest appraisal, but he was mistaken. Enraged, the merchant says the hero has crossed the line, and that the manager would never have trouble detecting metals because she's a demi-human. Then the hero says the sword belongs to the king of virtue, and it's not just any piece of metal. It's a legendary weapon with extraordinary power. Thus, the power contained in the sword is worth at least 20,000 gold coins. Emma is startled by the amount but says nothing, and the merchant becomes even angrier, threatening to expel him from the shop. Quickly, the manager steps in and hands a check for 20,000 gold coins to the hero. The hero reflects on the sword's actual price due to the manager Dokaka's gestures, but, afraid of leaving empty-handed, he remains silent. Still thinking, he concludes that if he puts too much pressure on the merchants, it could cause problems. And with his knowledge, he states that this is the only pawn shop in town. With a smile on his face, the hero decides the negotiation is done and tells the manager that it seems she shares the same desire to help the poor. He bows before the manager to thank her for caring about the city's destitute, and she hands him 5,000 gold coins in a sack. The manager asks the hero to count the money, but he says there's no need, thanks her, and leaves the shop. After walking for a while, Emma and the hero stop at a very luxurious hotel that appears to cost a fortune. The hero then says sarcastically that at this hotel, there's no proper reception staff to attend him after such a long wait. A tall, red-haired woman appears and says that the Jade Palace is the most luxurious hotel in the region for 1,000 miles around. Therefore, she says they don't serve civilians and orders the guards to throw them out. With a tone of superiority, the hero says he wanted to speak to her from one ordinary person to another, but seeing her disdain, he'll have to change his approach. He then announces that he's a noble, and suddenly several attendants appear, carrying clothes and a portable wardrobe. The attendants start changing Emma's and the hero's clothes inside the booths, but Emma doesn't understand and panics, asking them not to take off her clothes. Hence, the hero tells Emma not to worry because everything is going according to his plan, while the owner and the guards remain confused. After an hour inside the dressing area, Emma and the hero emerge wearing luxurious garments befitting a true noble. Then the owner recognizes the attendants and says that this is the special service. High flower tapestry. Still confused, the red-haired owner wonders how such a luxurious service could be hired by a man of his status. The hero says that, besides paying 2,500 gold coins, he also left a tip of 3 gold coins for the attendant as a bonus. Bowing before the hero, the attendant says it's an honor to serve him and that they can be contacted about any dissatisfaction he might have. Saying he's tired, the hero dismisses them. Then the red-haired owner approaches the hero, clinging to his arm, saying she was very blind before and asking him not to be angry with her. Thanking her for the compliment, the hero demands that, in her arms, he be given the best room and the best bathroom in the hotel. Laughing, the owner replies that she'll show him the room first. The hero calls Emma's attention, as she seems to be daydreaming about how expensive the clothing must have been. Then Emma and our hero arrive at what appears to be the hotel's most expensive room, entirely covered in gold and furnished with white furniture. Emma jumps onto the bed, saying it's beautiful and as soft as cotton. Relaxing, lying on the bed, Emma says it's like lying on a cloud. Then the hero remarks that this bed is nothing compared to his old spring mattress, and immediately asks Emma where she used to sleep. Emma then recalls how she used to spend her nights in someone else's stable pigpen. Still remembering her past, Emma says that many times she had the misfortune of sleeping by the roadside, gazing at the starry sky. Upon hearing Emma's words, our hero recalls his own painful past with Xiaoxi, his younger sister. They lived in a shack without any insulation, completely exposed to the elements. Our hero remembers promising to earn a lot of money to build a giant house just for his little sister. Then Xiaoxi says that if the house were too big for her, her brother would have to sleep beside her so she wouldn't be alone. Returning to the present, Emma says the hero is very different from what she had in mind about the hero of virtue but still thinks he is a good man. Thus, the hero says with a serious face that there is only one way to save the world and the people you care about. And that way is money. A luxurious table containing a great deal of food, such as wine and plenty of meat, is shown. Reluctantly wanting to eat all that food, Emma, drooling, tells the hero they can't spend the money from the sword because it would be a waste. Calmly, the hero tells Emma not to worry, as everything is part of his plan to save the world. The hero recalls hearing from the manager that there would be a lord who controls the place they are currently in. He concludes that he needs to pass himself off as a noble to gain access to such a person. Once again, he comes to the reasoning that to get profitable opportunities in aristocratic circles, this lord will be his first step. The hero reflects on how the remote region he is in is unfavorable for him to declare himself a noble. Drinking his wine, he plans to hold a great event in this city so that the lords of the region will come to him. Faced with this, he considers examining the city's economy the next day and then asks Emma to go to sleep. When he looks at Emma, he sees that she is full, her belly so stuffed it's nearly reaching her eyes. Time passes, and a dark, completely isolated castle is shown. Inside this castle, there is a man kneeling in fear before his lord. Trembling with terror, this man remains on his knees in front of his master. Then the lord, wearing noble attire and with a ferret around his neck, asks the man if he is hungry after kneeling for so long. The noble offers the man a piece of meat, but the man is so frightened for failing to properly collect taxes. Growing impatient, the noble asks how long he must hold the meat for him. Quickly, the man grabs the meat and begins eating it rapidly. The noble then asks the man to sit, commenting that the meat is of the highest quality, worthy of being the best beef. The man thanks him, saying it's delicious, but is surprised by several servants bringing many more dishes of the same meat. Still astonished, the man says it's too much meat for him to eat alone. In a threatening tone, the noble places a hand on the man's shoulder, saying that collecting tax coins is difficult and reminding him of the promise he made when he was appointed mayor. Getting even closer and speaking with an even more menacing tone, the noble says he hates people who do not keep their word. Thus, the man's legs are bound to the table, and the noble tells him that if he finishes the meal in 15 minutes, his life will be spared. A platform on the floor opens, revealing a river filled with alligators, and the noble says that if the man doesn't finish eating, he will become the alligator's meal desperately. The mayor begins devouring the meat on the table while the alligators threaten him. The count observes the situation, saying that on one side there is a man who failed to collect 2,000 gold coins in taxes, and on the other side, it is revealed that the bunny manager Dokaka, who bought the hero's sword for 20,000 gold coins, is chained up in terror. With that, Dokaka, who is terrified by the situation, starts releasing her bodily fluids. Desperately, Dokaka says that the true value of the sword cannot be measured by any amount of money. Analyzing the sword, the count hears Dokaka mention the name Gordon, a kind noble from a distant land. The count listens very attentively and orders his mercenary to investigate this noble named Gordon. After that, the count approaches Dokaka, who is terrified, squeezes her ears, and calls her his naive little bunny. Confident, the noble says that nobles are graceful creatures that reveal themselves to be bloodthirsty beasts. Some time passes, and we return to the hotel, where the hero tells Emma to take off her clothes, but she is reluctant, and says she doesn't want to. The boss goes on to say that the sacred guide must meet the hero's needs. Emma, confused and shedding tears, says she agrees with the other issues but not with this one. Removing Emma's sock, the hero says she does not have the right to refuse him as she remains frightened. In a bathhouse inside the hotel, the hero throws Emma into the water, saying she smells terrible, and is stinking up the entire room. Unable to stand the stench any longer, the boss asks Emma when was the last time she took a bath. Emma, terrified by a bad bathing experience in the past, says she doesn't know how to swim and feels like she's drowning out of fear. Then Emma is surprised by the shallow, warm water, saying it's very shallow. Emma enjoys the hot water, submerging her entire body in it. Looking at Emma, the hero reflects on how she hasn't had a good life and compares her to his younger sister. We see a creature swimming near Emma's legs. Desperate, Emma says she felt something slippery on her legs at that moment. She feels the creature touch her leg again and jumps into the chief's arms, saying there's a snake in the pool. The chief then tries to calm Emma by saying snakes can't live in hot water, but he quickly realizes there really is something in the water. The door opens, and the red-haired owner enters, saying that it's not a snake but a fire slug. She goes on to explain that it's a species with a fiery body and that just 5 of them are needed to reach boiling point, while only 1 is enough to heat that pool. She continues, telling Emma that they're neither aggressive nor toxic and that they even help clean the bathroom's dirt. The hero then thinks about how profitable it would be to use that slug to create a hot springs hotel in his own land. Therefore, the hero tells Emma to continue her bath and not come out until she's finished, because he's going out to talk to the owner. In another room, the owner serves wine to the hero and says she doesn't understand why he wants to talk to her. In her thoughts, the owner says she can't miss this chance to win over this wealthy young man who's just shown up. With a smile full of intentions, the owner says she'll make the hero fall so in love that he'll become submissive to her. The owner then thinks of enticing the hero by spilling wine on her voluptuous figure, imagining he'll clean it up. In the owner's imagination, the hero would be like other lustful men who take advantage of the situation. So, when she lets the wine glass fall, the hero catches it in midair. The hero then explains to her that he didn't want to get wet in the pool because changing would take too long, and he wants to explore the city soon. With her plans ruined, the red-haired woman is amazed at the hero's speed in catching the glass. It's explained that almost every time the chief went on dates, women would accidentally spill wine, so he learned to react quickly. Then the hero asks for the red-haired owner's name, and in her thoughts she says she'll have to go more slowly in winning him over. She replies, revealing she is Lan Lu, the owner of the Jade Palace, and the chief asks her for a detailed summary of the city. Lan Lu then explains that they're in Crocodile City, a coastal city surrounded by streams and swamps with crocodiles, hence the name. She goes on to say that the royal family began in this region and expanded until today. Surprised, the hero learns why the city uses crocodiles as its symbol and asks if the city has any other specialties. Lan Lu explains to the hero that the city produces pond rice, cultivated in the plains near the border. She adds that the pond rice is unique and 3 times larger than normal rice, softer and milder, perfect only for nobles to enjoy. The hero becomes pensive about this. Rice for nobles, and Lan Lu continues, saying that most of the rice production is allocated to nobles and the royal family, and the rest is sold. Astonished, the hero asks what the people in the city eat, and the redhead responds that in the city, people eat cheap imported grains and rice bran. Rising from his chair, the hero reflects that the city is poor to the core, and yet Lan Lu still managed to open an inn of that caliber. Approaching and intimidating Lan Lu, the hero asserts that she has an excellent ability to manage business. Lan Lu, feeling nervous, tells the hero he's overestimating her, and that she only chose this inn because it borders the Purgatory Roundabout. Surprised that Lan Lu mentioned the Purgatory Roundabout, the hero asks if it's the same place where the fire slugs live. The redhead says that indeed many slugs live there, but the area's exclusive and strongest creature is known as the melted feather sparrow. It's a creature with yellow eyes and red feathers that triggers volcanic eruptions through its activities. This creature also bears a feather that holds powerful magical essence, and when imbued into equipment, it grants Grand Master level fire magic. So the hero deduces that anyone looking to hunt the sparrow would stay at Lan Lu's hotel. The redhead explains that only 2 types of people choose to stay at the hotel. First, royal mercenaries, and second, sponsored adventurers. She adds that these types of people are not short on money, as they are willing to do anything to become stronger. Even so, the threat of the sparrow was significant, and many of the guests either died or ended up severely injured, making the hotel rarely visited. Concluding, Lan Lu says she can hardly pay the hotel's bills and is already in heavy debt. If she doesn't pay, she will be executed by the count. Our hero is surprised to hear the count's name again, and asks her to tell him more about this man. Uncomfortable, the redhead explains that Count Myrto is the king of the Bay's uncle, and the city is one of his many territories. Lan Lu gets up, says it's late, and bids farewell to our hero. The boss asks her to wait, but she only advises him not to ask about the count unless he wants to be executed. The hero bows and promises to remember the advice of this redhead. When the door closes and Lan Lu leaves, the hero puts on a confident smile, saying he isn't surprised. He compares the situation to the gold rush in the early 19th century or the diamond rush in the late 20th century, stating that the more dangerous the environment, the better the profits. The boss then returns to reality and says it's time to act. He goes back to the bathroom and asks Emma if she has finished her bath. Emma was lying in the pool, having fainted after relaxing for too long. The two return to the room, with Emma drinking something on the bed while happily saying she survived. The hero then asks Emma about her abilities as the hero of virtue. Emotional, Emma says she is glad he is finally starting to care about her abilities. Emma begins explaining that when the world faced a crisis, 5 heroes were summoned: virtue, truth, courtesy, wisdom, and belief. Showing a book, Emma says that each hero has a guide responsible for them, and each book has its unique skill system. Emma continues, saying that to unlock abilities, the steps in the book must be followed, and in the end, the 5 heroes will unite to save the world. Curious, our hero asks Emma what abilities he has, but she says she doesn't know. The hero gets annoyed with her for telling such a long story without knowing what really mattered. Embarrassed, Emma says the first ability will only be revealed when the hero saves 100 people in need, thus gaining the blessing of the king's sword. Outraged, the boss quickly grabs the book and tries to read it to discover his abilities, but Emma says they won't be revealed until the mission is completed. Frustrated, the boss concludes that they need to recover the sword of the benevolent king as quickly as possible. The protagonist reflects on how the mission to save 100 people is meaningless to him since he is a capitalist businessman who uses people to rise in life. He reflects on how divine destiny must have made a mistake by judging him as the hero of virtue. Emma comforts him, saying that even if he can't get the sword immediately, she will protect him with her healing and contract abilities. The boss is astonished to learn that Emma can make healing contracts and others as well. Then the protagonist asks if Emma can make her contract apply to both humans and objects, and she says yes. Emma explains that after signing, he will be able to summon the person or object anywhere. Emma continues, saying there is an invisible magical container to store items called the Sea of Consciousness. The protagonist then asks what the storage limit of the Sea of Consciousness is, and Emma says it depends on the magical energy of the object. With a smile, the boss asks how many gold coins he could store if he made a contract with them. Emma responds that items without magical power, like coins, can be stored in the hundreds of millions. Immediately, the protagonist grabs Emma's hand and asks her to make the contract between him and the coins now. With a serious expression, the hero says these coins will be the initial capital to recover the sword and save the world, so they must be stored safely. Emma says she understands the situation and, with a psychopathic look, points a knife at the boss. The protagonist is momentarily confused, but Emma explains that the object to be contracted must be stained with blood. Emma then grabs the bag of coins and tells him to get started without any further delay. The chief, still confused, asks if he really needs to soak over 2,000 coins in his blood to make the contract. Frightened, the chief asks if Emma can actually heal someone, and she confirms that she can. But the protagonist is surprised to hear that Emma can only heal wounds but cannot restore blood. Anxious, the hero asks if there's any blood-restoring potion in this world. Emma affirms that such potions exist but are luxurious items that cost many gold coins and are unlikely to be sold in such a small town. The protagonist then reflects on how to stain the coins with blood in a more efficient way. He concludes that he should take a large bucket, fill it with water, pour the coins into it, and cut his hand over the bucket, letting the blood drip into the water. So, he makes a cut on his hand and lets the blood flow into the bucket filled with coins. Seeing this situation, Emma starts to panic because she's afraid of blood and begins to feel dizzy from the sight. She suddenly faints, and the hero panics. He quickly grabs a bandage and wraps it around his hand. He tries to help Emma, asking her to wake up, but she remains lying there, unconscious. The hero starts slapping Emma's face, begging her to wake up, but nothing works. He concludes that she's really fainted and says there's no other way. The protagonist moves closer to her face and begins performing mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Emma wakes up a bit confused and comments that her lips feel warm. She notices the protagonist is on top of her with his face very close. He tells Emma that she's finally awake and asks her to stop his bleeding immediately. Still confused, Emma panics at the situation and says he can't do that. She mentions that the church's teachings forbid this kind of interaction with the hero. The chief, on the other hand, gets defensive and explains that it's not what she thinks and that he was just trying to wake her up so she could tend to his wound. Emma quickly realizes the seriousness of the situation and casts a healing spell to close the wound. The chief is amazed to see the magic working and comments that this world has truly fascinating abilities capable of instantly healing injuries. He reflects that if he could bring this girl to his world, he would make a lot of money with her healing magic, as it seems rare in this place. With a plan in mind, the chief begins thinking of ways to persuade Emma to make use of her abilities for his benefit. Next, he instructs her on the next step, using the contract to transform the coins into his property. Emma confidently asks him to watch her skills. Emma begins casting a spell in another language, glowing intensely. With that, the contract between the coins and the chief is formed. The coins start glowing, and the chief feels something strange, realizing that his soul has been filled with the presence of the coins as if they were part of his body. Emma becomes worried about the hero's condition, asking if he's okay, but he assures her that he feels much better. He reflects that in his world, assets were worth billions but were just numbers. Here, however, the coins feel real, almost like flesh and blood. Excited, he reconsiders his previous thoughts and admits that this world is truly amazing. The next day, the chief tries to wake Emma, who's sleeping deeply. Unsuccessful, Emma continues sleeping like a rock. He comments on how heavy her sleep is and, failing to wake her, decides to use a trick. The hero throws a piece of bread into her mouth. Startled, Emma bites the bread along with the chief's hand. After waking up, she asks what they'll be doing that day. The chief explains that the innkeeper mentioned that the city isn't very safe and suggests buying protective equipment. While having breakfast, Emma praises the innkeeper, saying she's very kind. The chief, suspicious, thinks that running a hotel in such a small town likely means she's hiding something. They head to a store that seems to sell potions. The chief asks the vendor if there are healing potions available. The vendor responds that it's his lucky day because he's just received a new stock and asks the chief to wait while he retrieves the potions. Meanwhile, the vendor observes the chief's clothes and demeanor, thinking he looks like a wealthy noble willing to spend. Returning with 3 potion bottles, the vendor states that each costs 5 coins. The chief is surprised, finding the price reasonable. Seizing the opportunity, the vendor emphasizes the usefulness of potions for adventurers. Trying to impress even more, the vendor offers a discount, 3 bottles for only 45 coins. Before the seller could retrieve higher quality potions, the boss interrupted him. The hero stated that if these potions were truly of high grade, their price seemed very reasonable. Adopting a threatening tone, he asked what would happen if the potions turned out to be fake. The nervous seller denied any wrongdoing, but the boss grabbed an empty flask and transferred the liquid from one of the potions into it. He explained that a potion's quality is measured by the brightness of its color, noting that high-grade potions shine brightly, while low-quality ones have a dark hue, like the one the seller had offered. The boss accused the seller of using tampered flasks to make the potions appear better. He continued, explaining that a potion's shelf life is 1 year, and after that, it loses its effectiveness and acquires a strong smell of blood. Additionally, he claimed the seller had used incense to mask this odor. The hero went on to say that the potion was not only expired but also of low quality, rendering it ineffective compared to a common one. Furious, the boss grabbed the seller by the neck and accused him of trying to deceive them with subpar products. Terrified, the seller asked how he knew so much about potions. The boss revealed that he had consulted Emma and the innkeeper before coming to the store, emphasizing that sellers should thoroughly understand their products before selling them. After releasing the seller, he warned that cheap tricks could provoke vengeance from adventurers or mercenaries, who would never leave him alone if they found out. The hero asserted that the seller's deceitful behavior was because he planned to flee after profiting from the hunting season. Desperate, the seller admitted he hadn't paid taxes for the past 2 months and begged to be left alone. The boss proposed a deal. If the seller could offer something worth 30 coins, he would be spared. Otherwise, his life would belong to the boss. Frightened, the seller promised to meet the demand. Shortly afterward, he returned with 3 types of genuine high-quality potions, asking the boss to test them. Even so, the boss remained suspicious. The seller explained that the total value of the potions exceeded 120 coins and suggested a tip. With a threatening tone, the boss declared that 30 coins were enough and mentioned Count Murdo's name, implying he had connections with influential people. Upon hearing this, the seller panicked, believing the boss to be a cruel noble. Desperate, he repeatedly apologized, promising not to make the same mistakes again. In response, the hero stated he would confiscate all low-quality potions in the store to prevent the seller from selling them. The hero left the shop, heading to the armor store, while Emma told the seller to repent and not repeat his errors. The boss repeated the same strategy with other merchants, acquiring many valuable items such as weapons, armor, and more. Walking through the streets, Emma questioned the hero about why the merchants agreed to sell their products for such low prices. Emma then noticed the protagonist starting to cry and asked why. He said he had never seen such a primitive and simple negotiation method. He added that he found it amusing how the sellers pretended to be attentive and intelligent. Emma remained confused, asking if the boss shouldn't be happy instead of crying. Feigning divinity, the boss reflected on the sadness of unbalanced victories, illuminating the city with his presence while mortals observed in reverence and silence. The protagonist and Emma walked through the bustling city, passing citizens living amid evident poverty. The hero reflected on how the area was completely suppressed by the Count, whose policies made people's lives even harder. Emma looked around anxiously and suddenly gasped, pointing at something ahead. Soon, they saw a crowd gathered, observing a disturbing scene. A knight was subduing a child in the middle of the street, drawing the attention of everyone around. Emma and the hero quickly approached and witnessed the soldier punishing the child. The soldier continued to overpower the boy, accusing him of smuggling food, which was prohibited. He insisted that food could only be acquired through official means. The brave boy retorted that official food was inaccessible due to its exorbitant price. Angrily, the soldier declared with disdain that those who don't pay for food deserve to die. Without hesitation, he ordered the child's execution as an example to the crowd. Emma, distraught, insisted on intervening against the soldiers, but the hero tried to calm her, warning that interfering would bring severe consequences for both of them. Furious, Emma accused the hero of being incapable of helping even a defenseless child. He retorts, stating that he intends to help but will use different methods from the ones Emma is proposing, which will only worsen the problem. Crying in frustration, Emma asks exactly how he plans to save the boy. With determination, the hero responds that she'll soon find out, and for now, they need to return to the Jade Palace to retrieve something important. Meanwhile, the boy is taken to an improvised stage, tied up while a soldier announces to the crowd that the child will be punished with the divorce of his hands. The soldier warns the spectators, trying to use the act as an example, and orders the execution to proceed. At that moment, another soldier raises an axe to carry out the punishment. But suddenly, a voice shouts for them to stop, and the soldier angrily asks who dares to interrupt the execution. The atmosphere changes, and soon a luxurious carriage drawn by two imposing men appears at the scene. Emma and the hero step out of the vehicle wearing refined clothing that grabs everyone's attention. Confused and surprised by the situation, the soldiers ask who dares to interfere with the execution. The hero, maintaining his composure, considers the soldiers' approach excessive and asks Emma to speak on his behalf. Emma, playing her role, announces that the hero is Baron Gordon, a noble from the legendary Celestial City, and declares that he wishes to take the boy as a servant. Without hesitation, the boy refuses the offer, stating that he would rather lose his hands than become someone's servant. The hero, in response, slaps the boy's face and declares that no one can reject his will. The soldier, suspicious but unwilling to cause trouble upon seeing the baron's wealth, comments that nobles often perform despicable acts when taking in boys. Despite the mockery, the soldier bows before the baron and allows the boy to be taken. Pulling the boy's hair, the soldier remarks that he is very lucky to be chosen by the baron. With irony, he comments that the boy's fate might be even worse in the hands of a noble. To reinforce the humiliation, the soldier steps on the boy's head and demands that he properly thank the baron. The hero, irritated by the scene, kicks the soldier and declares that the boy already belongs to him. The crowd and soldiers are alarmed by the audacity of the act. The boy is impressed by the hero's action of kicking the soldier. The hero adds that the soldier is despicable for daring to touch what belongs to him. Still shaken, the soldier tries to justify himself, but the hero accuses him of looking at Emma improperly. Whispering to Emma, the hero explains that everything is part of a plan to save the boy and asks her to continue the act. Playing her role, Emma grabs the hero's arm, pretending to be indignant. Disgusted, the hero tells the soldier that he'll get slapped every time he looks at Emma, and then asks how many times he looked at her. The soldier, still on the ground, says he only looked once. The hero provokes the crowd, asking how many times the soldier stared at Emma. The crowd exaggerates their answers, increasing the tension. Surprised that the crowd inflated the numbers just to see him suffer, the soldier becomes indignant. The baron remarks on the crowd's exaggeration and says, at most, he saw the soldier look only 99 times. Terrified, the soldier asserts that he is a knight of the count, and therefore, immune. But the hero threatens to report everything to the count if he doesn't learn proper etiquette. With a smile, the hero says he won't dirty his own hands. To conclude the confrontation, the hero throws a sack of coins to the crowd, offering 1 coin for every slap on the soldier. Excited, the citizens climb onto the stage and begin hitting the soldier. Meanwhile, the hero and Emma discreetly leave, satisfied with diverting attention and causing some trouble for the tax collectors. The hero then thinks that if the count is a qualified villain, he'll notice the scene caused at that moment. Meanwhile, from atop a building, a mysterious figure observes everything happening. Later at the hotel, the hero confronts the boy, explaining that he saved his life and that now he belongs to him. The boy, still shaken, declares that he'd rather die than become a noble's property. Hearing this, the hero says he traded the boy's life for 99 silver coins and would lose a lot if he killed him. Sitting in his chair, the hero extends his hand to the boy and says that what he wants is simply him. The boy, shivering in fear, asks what the hero wants. The hero clarifies that he doesn't want a slave but rather an employee. Hearing this, the boy is extremely surprised. The baron then declares that he has made his decision. The boy will be his first employee. The hero explains that as an employee, they will need to maintain cleanliness and hygiene. He then assigns Emma the task of giving a bath to the boy in male clothing, revealing that he knew all along it was actually a girl. Emma takes the girl to the bathroom while the girl questions the hero on how he knew she was actually a girl. The hero reflects silently, noting that he avoided saying Emma was his first employee and should aim to be his best employee. As the door closes, Emma begins to take care of the new employee, who is still trying to understand her new reality. After the bath, the baron, concerned, gently touches the child's face and asks if she still feels pain. The girl smiles shyly and replies that she no longer feels anything. She adds that Emma gave her a warm compress, which seems to have helped a lot. With his usual kindness, the hero seizes the moment to ask the girl for her name. Embarrassed, she says her name is Seong-pu, and the hero notices how her shyness matches her lovely name. He then decides to lighten the tense atmosphere by serving a cake decorated with fresh strawberries for the child. The dessert, so carefully prepared, draws attention with its beauty and delicious aroma. He hands the plate to the girl and encourages her to try it. The child looks at the plate in surprise, unable to believe something so good is being offered to her. Meanwhile, Emma, standing nearby, fixes her eyes on the cake, her hunger stirred by the smell alone. As soon as the girl takes her first bite, an unexpected reaction occurs. Tears start streaming down her face, and she cannot hold back her sobs. Worried, the hero approaches and asks what is wrong, questioning if there's something off about the cake's taste. Between sobs, she says the cake is wonderful but feels unworthy of accepting it because her grandfather taught her never to accept favors. The boss listens attentively and, with a tone of understanding, explains that she is misunderstanding the situation. He implies that the cake isn't free. Curious, Emma moves closer to steal a bite of the cake, but the boss scolds her, saying if she eats now, there will be no dinner for her later. He explains to the girl that the cake isn't a gift, but an advance payment. He adds that for each answer she provides, she will receive a silver coin as a reward. He then begins his interrogation, seeking information about the Count's methods for accumulating wealth. Encouraged by the opportunity, the girl answers directly, stating she knows many secrets about that despicable man. As she speaks, the hero meticulously records the information, asking increasingly peculiar questions as the interrogation progresses, such as about the Count's fetishes. The question leaves Emma and the girl bewildered, and Emma suggests postponing the questioning until the next day, as the girl's voice is hoarse. However, the boss insists, claiming time is short and that he needs all the information possible to deal with the Count effectively. Emma shows clear doubt. At this moment, he pulls a letter from his pocket. He explains that it is an invitation from the Count himself for a dinner he received while they were preparing tea for him. Determined to seize the opportunity, the hero stands, dresses, and announces his departure. Emma grabs the sleeve of the hero's suit and insists on accompanying him. With a serious expression, he explains that she wasn't invited and must stay behind to look after the house, but Emma doesn't relent. Emma argues that her duty as his holy mission's follower is to protect him. Fearing for the hero's safety, Emma insists that without magic or martial skills, he needs her by his side to defend him against the cruel and dangerous Count. With that, Emma concludes that if she doesn't protect him, he will end up dying at the Count's hands. With a reassuring smile, the hero pats her head and promises that he won't die so easily, asking her to trust him and wait for his return. Reluctantly, Emma lets go and watches as he walks out the door. Outside, a carriage awaits the hero. Before he enters, the innkeeper approaches and warns him not to get involved with the Count, saying he is an extremely dangerous man. With an ironic smile, the hero responds by asking how she can be so sure that he isn't even more dangerous than the Count. He enters the carriage, which quickly departs, leaving the proprietor reflecting on his warning. She recalls the hero's words, saying that invisible danger is always the deadliest, and concludes that she is beginning to feel fascinated by the Baron. During the journey, the hero sits in the carriage, reflecting on what lies ahead. He feels a slight nervousness as he thinks about the challenges he will face, knowing that the Count is barbaric and fearsome, but he eagerly anticipates the business opportunities. The hero continues onward in the carriage. Upon arriving at his destination, he notices a hooded figure standing under a lamppost. This figure guides him to a boat on the river, where he boards without question. They sail in silence until they reach the Count's castle. During the crossing, he observes the Count's castle illuminated in the distance, comparing it to a floating skeleton in a swamp. Upon arrival, he is greeted by stern guards. They escort him to a room with 4 chairs and instruct him to wait. He uses this moment to reconsider his plans. Time passes, and he begins to feel a strange drowsiness. Noticing his surroundings, he spots incense burning before him and wonders why his body feels so warm. At the same time, he experiences a strange yet pleasant chill. Unable to resist, he closes his eyes. When he awakens, he finds himself in a bathtub surrounded by several women with peculiar appearances. Before he can grasp the situation, the Count appears and explains that these are ice mermaids, creatures whose bodies can regulate heat. He comments that they are known for providing unique sensations of combined warmth and cold. One of the mermaids approaches and licks the hero's hand, leaving him completely confused about what awaits him next. The chief is startled by the person behind him and asks if he is Count Myrto. The Count responds by questioning if he is the noble who sells swords and helps the poor or the extravagant one who spends fortunes on hotels. He continues, asking if he's the one who used coins in the execution field to interfere or bought nobles as slaves for his army. Quickly, the hero bows and says he is merely an aristocrat with business skills, asserting that everything he has done was to get the Count's attention. Still looking at the Count, The hero insists that all his actions thus far were only to impress him. Intrigued by the response, the Count comments that the hero is far more interesting than he imagined and asks what he wants. The hero, in his thoughts, reflects that he needs to reinforce the image he is building of his character before making his request. He then says he needs an army to assassinate his uncle, surprising the Count. The Count finds the request unexpected and demands that the hero explain the familial motives behind it. The hero begins recounting his origin, claiming to be the eldest son of a small noble in the celestial city on the Golden Isle. He tells how his father, the leader of a maritime trade, lost everything in a shipwreck after a great storm. His father drifted for 7 days until finding an uninhabited island where he discovered it was full of gold. Though disheartened by the tragedy, the father considered the discovery of gold a blessing in disguise. Using the gold, he built the Sky City on the island and named it the Golden Isle. But the good times didn't last, as his uncle, his father's only brother, coveted the wealth and poisoned the patriarch. After killing his father, the uncle kidnapped his mother and forced the hero to flee like a dog to survive. Since then, he has sworn to end his uncle's life and reclaim everything that is rightfully his. Striking the ground and kneeling, he begs the Count for help, reflecting on his tragic story. The hero believes he has used a classic tragedy narrative to stage his life in this world. He trusts that the Count will be tempted by the promise of the Golden Isle's riches, carefully planned in his story. The Count approaches, saying his story is sorrowful and worthy of tears, and asks him to stand. Convinced that he has deceived the Count, the hero thinks everything was easier than expected. Suddenly, the Count pulls out a knife and places it against the hero's chest, who realizes he hasn't been fooled. The Count calmly wipes his hand and asks if the hero wants to know why he was stabbed. Submissive, the hero asks for an explanation, and the Count reveals he noticed his hostility upon seeing a hidden knife. The Count asserts that regardless of the hero's previous status, he must submit like a dog. Concluding, he says he despises cheap tricks, hinting that he has seen through the hero's manipulative intentions. The hero reflects that his true identity remains undiscovered, thanks to Emma, who summoned him to this world. The Count remarks that although he doesn't like the hero's approach, he is intrigued by the story he told. Still wounded, the hero asks what the Count wants, suspecting that the wealth of the Golden Island still lures him. The Count offers the hero a drink, claiming it will heal his wounds, and the hero notices that his kits have been confiscated. With no alternatives, he accepts the drink, deciding to trust his life to the Count while reflecting on his limited options. As he drinks the liquid, his throat burns, and the Count explains that the wine is called Fire Throat. The Count says the wine is made in the crater of the Purgatory Circle using the spiciest pepper from Crocodile Bay. He claims that after the initial burning sensation, the pain fades, but the body experiences an intense heartbeat acceleration. The pores of his body open completely, and an ice-finned mermaid approaches the hero, further adding to his confusion. The Count explains that ice-finned mermaids are attracted to the wine during their mating season. Since they live in the ocean depths, their slippery bodies produce fluids with healing properties. With that, the Count steps away, suggesting the hero enjoy the bath with the mermaids, leaving him utterly bewildered. The hero tries to resist but realizes his body is out of control and fears alerting the Count if he pulls out his knife. He decides to expose his human vulnerabilities to convince the Count of his complete submission. The Count warns that the mermaids are obsessive and that if he doesn't satisfy them, he won't be able to leave the bath. With no other options, the hero drops the knife to the ground, feeling as though every cell in his body is on fire. He realizes he can no longer think clearly and must rely on instinct to try to calm down. Reflecting, he concludes that the drink combined with the mermaids is the Count's ultimate weapon to break a man's will. Resisting with determination, the hero, provoked by the mermaids, observes that they are a terrifying species yet recognizes their undeniable beauty. Still teasing him, the mermaids provocatively ask if he desires to possess them entirely, but the hero grows suspicious, believing it might be a dangerous trap. He responds that it is natural for a man to feel such desires but points out that they seem far more loyal to the Count than to him. One of the mermaids approaches, places her hand over the hero's mouth, and in a serious tone, asks him to remain silent. She then declares that he must kill the Count and take control of them. Startled, the hero begs her not to say such absurd things, but before he can react, the two mermaids behind him aim sharp ice stakes at him. They state coldly that they are not joking. Confused, the hero begins to think it might be yet another trap and questions why they would want to betray their leader. One of the mermaids steps forward, staring intently into his eyes, and explains that after their intimacy, she came to know him on a deeper level. She then reveals her true name and identity, addressing him as the hero of virtue from another world. The hero is stunned, as he had never revealed his true identity to anyone except Emma. At this moment, he begins to suspect that the mermaid might be a member of the Celestial Fate Order, but she quickly dismisses this possibility. She explains that she belongs to the ice-fin mermaids and that her mind-reading ability is activated through a deep connection with a man. The hero, still trying to process all these revelations, questions how such an absurd ability could exist. However, he decides that since she knows everything about him, they should speak honestly from now on. He admits that he doesn't currently have enough power to kill the Count and suggests that with her abilities, the mermaid might try persuading the Count to destroy himself. He explains that if he tried to kill the Count, he would likely die, but she could read his mind and reveal everything to the Count, resulting in his downfall. The second option would be for the mermaids to use him to achieve their goals, but for that, they would need his cooperation, which wasn't guaranteed. The hero states that given his value to them and the information they possess about him, everything should be treated as a business deal. He requests that the ice blades be lowered and that they reveal their intentions while he relaxes in the pool, arguing that such tension is unnecessary. The lead mermaid approaches with a seductive gaze, affirming that he is special and that only he has the power to change their destiny. She explains that she knows this because, during the moment of connection they shared, she saw all the hero's moments of happiness and sorrow. The mermaid reveals that she also sensed his insatiable desire for riches but, beyond that, managed to feel the deepest, untouched part of his heart. Startled by this observation, the hero asks what exactly she wants from him. With a gentle touch on his face, the mermaid smiles and says that what she desires is him. Quickly, the hero refuses, asserting that he's not available and asking her to think of something else. Even so, the mermaid insists, saying he will be her first man and also her last. Trying to change the direction of the conversation, the hero asks if she isn't one of the Count's girls, to which the mermaid responds candidly. She explains that she has never had any relations with the Count, as he is uninterested in non-human beings, and only uses them to test the loyalty of his allies. The mermaid continues, saying that once he leaves the pool, he is supposed to report them to the Count, claiming that they tried to persuade him to kill the Count, thus proving his loyalty. Perplexed, the hero asks if that wouldn't put the mermaid in danger, but she smiles enigmatically and states that she will not die until she has borne him an heir. Still confused, the hero puts on his clothes and asks how he could contact her in the future. The mermaid introduces herself as Maria and explains that he should only seek her out after the Count's death, as she will then take the initiative to appear. She warns him to remember her name well, for she will be his first woman in this world. The hero leaves the room with an ironic smile, saying he'd love to forget all of it, but he knows he won't be able to. As he departs, one of the other mermaids asks the Majesty if taking such a risk is worth it. The Majesty confidently responds that the hero is destined to be a king, someone who commands and is never commanded. She concludes that the hero can achieve things the deceased Count never could and declares that, from that moment on, he is their true master. In her excitement, the Majesty declares that the hero's first child will be hers. Meanwhile, a servant escorts the hero to the Count's room. Upon arrival, the Count greets him with a curious look and asks how his experience with the mermaids was, questioning if he'd like to repeat the service. Still uncomfortable, the hero responds that it was a unique and gratifying experience, but something bothers him, and he decides to reveal it. He confesses that the mermaids tried to persuade him to kill the Count, leaving the Count surprised by the revelation. Quickly, the hero bows, swears loyalty to the Count, and promises that any sword that harms the Count will harm him as well. He begs to be the Count's sword, vowing to eliminate all enemies who dare cross his path. Calmly, the Count asks what the hero can do for him. With a subtle and manipulative smile, the hero seems to already have an answer prepared. The hero responds to the Count with confidence, stating that he can offer money, thanks to his family's talent for business, a legacy of generations. It is a skill that has kept them alive and thriving even in difficult times. The Count, with a mocking smile, scoffs at the hero's boldness and taunts him by asking if he looks like someone who needs money. The hero firmly replies that his family has always taught that one can never have too much money. The hero suggests that before defeating his nephew's kingdom, the Count may face a lack of resources. Surprised, the Count admits that the hero is well informed and intrigued, asks him to elaborate. The hero reveals that the Crocodile Bay Kingdom stretches from the mouth of the crocodile to Miroku, with the northwest controlled by nobles allied to the king. Meanwhile, the southeastern part belongs to nobles loyal to the Count, creating a clear division in the territory. The hero recalls that 14 years ago, the Count's father passed the throne to Chobek, and under the king's manipulation, the Count had to accept the isolated crocodile city. The hero recounts that even in exile, the Count used his intelligence to strengthen himself and challenge his brother, reaching a point where, when his brother tried to destroy him, it was already too late. Proudly, the Count states that 3 years ago, he defeated an army of 12,000 men with just 3,000 soldiers. He claims to have drowned his older brother in the dreaded crocodile swamp so he would never rise against him again. The hero, understanding the gravity of these events, remarks that this explains why the current king, the Count's nephew, hates him and is determined to destroy him. The Count, referring to Chobek's sons, asks if the hero believes those two wretches have any chance against him. He declares that to him, they are nothing more than two patches of moss in a damp swamp. The hero agrees, admitting that the two young men are no match for the Count. But the hero adds a new perspective. There is only one adversary capable of confronting the Count on equal footing. The hero recalls his employee previously mentioning Jugu, the legendary crocodile lord. The one who feeds on crocodiles. He wonders who this could be. She described him as the cornerstone of the kingdom, the greatest general in its history, and the sole Duke of Crocodile Bay. He was the founder of the kingdom, and the only one to tame the mighty black iron crocodiles. Under his command, the Abyssal Iron Knights became a legendary force. The hero asks if the Abyssal Knights ride crocodiles. His employee confirms this and mentions that, despite being only 1,000 soldiers, these knights defeated even the feared Blue Legion, one of the demon's most powerful forces. The protagonist reflects on the importance of crocodiles as weapons of war, commenting that they are essential for maintaining the kingdom's balance of power. Xiangpu notes that if the swamp's crocodiles were black iron crocodiles, they wouldn't attack humans. Doubtful, the hero asks if the swamp crocodiles aren't black iron crocodiles. The employee explains that the crocodile swamp is home to a different species, ragged crocodiles. These were created as a result of an experiment by the Count, where he tried to cross black iron crocodiles with needle crocodiles. This experiment created a swamp crocodile with spiked armor as tough as an iron plate and sharp as blades. The hero asks if the experiment was a success. His employee quickly responds that the experiment failed. She explains that although the experiment created stronger crocodiles, they were violent and untamable, leading the Count to abandon them in the swamp as a natural barrier. Xiangpu says that ordinary people have never crossed the swamp alive. The hero notes that the untamable crocodiles were thrown into the swamp to form a barrier against invaders and to prevent the city's inhabitants from escaping. The protagonist praises the Count's plan, calling it a way to kill two birds with one stone, while his employee scolds him for complimenting a villain. Shortly after, the hero reflects on the first phase of his plan. The Count admits that Jugu and the Abyssal Iron Knights are his greatest obstacles to the throne. He asks the hero if it would be possible to defeat Jugu with enough money. Still kneeling, the hero confidently replies that it is. The Count then asks the hero to explain his plan. They appear to discuss the plan, and the Count, satisfied, acknowledges that the plan would cost him a lot of money. The protagonist retorts that once the Count has the kingdom, the money spent would be no more than a mere drop. Impressed, the Count decides to support the hero, but not without first testing him. He appoints the hero as the mayor of Crocodile City and imposes a challenge: to collect 100,000 coins in 3 months without any assistance. The hero accepts but emphasizes that he will need protection and strength to ensure his orders are followed. In response, the Count commands his servant, Shadow Ghost, to step out of the shadows. Suddenly, a woman emerges from the walls as if she had been inside them. The Count assigns Shadow Ghost as the hero's personal guard, declaring him his honored guest and ordering her to comply with all his requests. Shadow Ghost accepts the orders, saying she understands. Meanwhile, in another scene, two girls are being cruelly mistreated by an arrogant boy. The boy declares to the two women he is tormenting that the one who acts most like a dog will make her husband a hereditary knight. Two other women approach the room. One of these women, furious, bursts through the door. The red-haired boy, confused, realizes that the person who opened the door is his mother. She slaps him across the face, reprimanding him. She demands to know what her son, Job, thinks he is doing. The boy, feeling the sting on his face from the slap, expresses his irritation, saying that his mother always arrives at the best part. His mother, disappointed, questions whether this behavior is worthy of a king and whether he honors his late father. He responds sarcastically that she doesn't understand or merely pretends not to. The boy, with a malicious smile, declares that his father enjoyed himself far more in the same way he does. Grabbing the hair of the two girls, he asserts that they had already been used by his father before his death. He adds that his father had trained them well and that they are now fit for the roles they play. Turning to the kneeling men, he questions how peasants like them had become knights in just 3 years. One of the men, overcome with indignation and hatred, draws his sword and plunges it into his own chest in an act of desperation. With his final words, he declared that the boy, like his father, would rot like a corpse in the kingdom's sewers. The merciless boy pulled out a crossbow and shot a precise arrow into the man's head, ending his life. With disdain, he remarked that if the man wished to die, it was better to do so silently. The man's wife panicked, crying as she saw her husband's body fall to the ground. The boy's mother, horrified, declared that he was beyond redemption and that the kingdom was doomed under his rule. Convinced of his power, the boy proclaimed that as long as his grandmother lived, he would be the supreme king of Crocodile Bay. The scene shifted to Emma and the innkeeper, Lan Lu, observing the chief with suspicious looks. Uncomfortable, the chief asked how long the three of them planned to keep staring at him like that. Surprised, Lan Lu said she couldn't believe he had returned unscathed from his journey. Xiang Pu, her employee, commented that he incited the people to attack tax collectors and should have been thrown into the crocodile pit. Concerned, Emma pointed to a wound on his neck, showing a mark that seemed significant. Xiang Pu examined it and said it was very small, likely just a simple swamp insect bite. Recalling the mermaids biting his neck, the chief agreed with Xiang Pu's assessment. He explained that the count's castle was built over a swamp full of mosquitoes, justifying the marks. Inspecting more closely, Emma found several marks on the chief's chest and became alarmed. Desperate, she declared that it was clearly one of the count's torture methods. Sarcastically, Xiang Pu remarked that even the mosquitoes at the count's house seemed violent. Lan Lu touched the chief's chest, noting that the marks didn't look like simple bites since they weren't swollen. Trying to downplay the situation, the chief suggested they might be from other insects, not just mosquitoes. He joked, saying Emma could paint them a different color if she wanted. Shortly after, he announced he had an important statement to make and asked everyone to listen. The chief revealed that he had sworn loyalty to the count and, as a reward, had been named the city's mayor. Outraged, Xiang Pu asked if he truly intended to serve the demon that was the count. She reminded him that the previous mayor lasted only a month before being eliminated for treason. Suddenly, Shadow Ghost, a mercenary loyal to the hero, appeared and grabbed Xiang Pu by the neck as a warning. The hero quickly intervened, asking Shadow Ghost to release her, emphasizing the value of his employee. Reluctantly, Shadow Ghost let go of Xiang Pu and respectfully bowed to the hero, agreeing to the order. Lan Lu reflected on how Shadow Ghost, one of the most feared generals of Mordor, now served the hero. He introduced Shadow Ghost as his new head of security and asked for a round of applause in her honor. The women reluctantly clapped for Shadow Ghost, acknowledging her importance and strength. Lan Lu pondered the hero's power, marveling at how, in a single night, he had gained both the count's trust and the loyalty of a deadly general. The hero then warned that he would no longer tolerate any transgressions against the count. He declared that anyone who opposed him would face the consequences at the hands of Shadow Ghost. The women agreed, intimidated by the new presence now part of their group. The hero reflected that although the count had sent Shadow Ghost as a spy, he preferred to keep her under his direct control. He decided it would be better to use her as an asset rather than allow her to act against him from the shadows. Later, the hero asked the innkeeper to offer a luxury suite to Shadow Ghost as a gesture of welcome. Shadow Ghost declined the offer, stating that she preferred to remain in the shadows, ensuring her lord's safety. Lan Lu was impressed as she watched Shadow Ghost disappear into the shadows, reflecting on the distant origins of such magic. The hero concluded that Shadow Ghost's abilities would be crucial for both espionage and strategic assassinations. With a smile, he decided he needed to fully bring Shadow Ghost to his side, distancing her from the count. Later, the hero was found asleep while Shadow Ghost observed him from the shadows. Silently, she murmured that it was the perfect time to discover what truly mattered. Shadow Ghost recalled the count ordering her to strip the hero of all his money to see how he would survive without a single coin. Shadow Ghost then entered the hero's room, undressed. Shadow phantoms only infiltrate at night when they are nude. She began her treasure hunt for the hero's possessions, quickly spotting a bag and concluding the money must be inside. She remarked that it hadn't even been an effort because it was so easy. When she opened the bag, however, she found only dirty clothes. A bit frustrated, she declared she would search the entire room. Shortly after, she admitted she was exhausted, saying she had searched everywhere but found nothing. She thinks there's only one place left, looking toward the hero's bed. She approaches the hero's bed, assuming the treasure must be hidden under the sheets. She starts searching the bed, but suddenly, the hero grabs her wrist and pulls her. The hero, still asleep, tells Xiaoxi to stop causing trouble. While dreaming, the hero pulls his bodyguard closer, making her lie beside him. Shadow Ghost feels embarrassed, wondering what's going on. She questions whether the hero might be awake but quickly dismisses the thought, reasoning that the orchid of sleep incense could knock out an elephant. The hero, dreaming of his sister, continues speaking out loud. Shadow Ghost realizes he's merely dreaming and concludes it will be easier to search for the boss's money. She begins searching inside the hero's clothes. Shadow Ghost starts rummaging through the hero's pants. Suddenly, the hero hugs her and, still dreaming, tells her not to cause any more mischief. He adds that otherwise her brother will get upset, while the elf says she can't move. Shadow Ghost says she's stuck but doesn't feel any sign of aggression. As the hero hugs her, she reflects on how comforting and reassuring it feels. She remembers being a child and hugging her brother to sleep. Returning to reality, Shadow Ghost tells herself to rest in his arms for now and that she'll continue searching once he's more relaxed. She decides to close her eyes for a moment. The night passes and morning comes. Emma wakes up, saying she must set an example by waking early as the sacred guide. The innkeeper's room is shown, where she plans to prepare a hearty breakfast to win the heart and stomach of Baron Gordon. In Xiangpu's room, the hero's employee says she will thank the strange and rich uncle today. The innkeeper, Emma, and Xiangpu gather in front of the hero's door and decide to enter together. Emma declares she'll wake him first, and the innkeeper says she's brought the best pudding she's ever made. As they open the door, they find the hero and his bodyguard sleeping in each other's arms. The three are shocked at the sight. The hero wakes up, not realizing Shadow Ghost is beside him, and asks why they woke him so early. Seeing their expressions, he jokes that, if he didn't know better, he'd think there was a woman in his bed. He looks to the side and panics upon seeing a woman sleeping next to him. Emma points at him and demands to know what he did with Miss Shadow Ghost during the night. The innkeeper suspects Shadow Ghost tricked her, and that this is one of the Count's seduction schemes. However, when she looks at Shadow Ghost's face, she notices a genuinely happy smile that doesn't seem forced. Lan Lu reflects that, in one night, the Baron has gained the Count's trust and Shadow Ghost's loyalty, questioning his true identity. The hero's employee, confused, asks why the Count's servant is sleeping with Mr. Gordon. Emma quickly covers Xiangpu's eyes, saying she's too young to be poisoned by such things. Shadow Ghost wakes up, wondering where her brother is. She catches a glimpse of the boss, who insists it's not what they're thinking. Still somewhat disoriented, Shadow Ghost calls the boss, brother, and asks him to hug her a little longer. Emma quickly shuts the door and takes Xiangpu with her. The innkeeper says she'll leave breakfast outside the door and hopes the Baron and his bodyguard are well rested. Shadow Ghost simply continues sleeping after everything. Meanwhile, the boss reflects on what's happening and why the Count's people keep showing up at his door. Afterward, Shadow Ghost gets up. Shadow Ghost opened her eyes slowly, still adjusting to the light in the room. She noticed the boss watching her, which instantly made her expression harden. The boss, in a casual tone, commented that Miss Ghost had finally woken up. Without hesitation, Shadow Ghost pulled out a dagger and pointed it directly at him. Clearly furious, she kept the blade aimed at the hero. The boss raised his hands calmly, stating that she had come to his bed and, with an ironic smile, remarked on the incomprehensibility of women. Blushing with embarrassment, Shadow Ghost demanded that he not tell anyone about what had happened that night. The hero, however, reflected that her extreme reaction suggested she was acting under orders. Even so, he assured her he wouldn't reveal anything but mention that the girls had already seen everything. Determined, Shadow Ghost declared that she would eliminate all witnesses immediately to protect her reputation. The chief advised her not to go through with it, saying it would be an irreversible mistake. He explained that the girls were essential to the business because, without them, he wouldn't have the money to defeat Zhu Gu, the crocodile devourer. The chief took the opportunity to manipulate the situation, asking if she truly wanted to commit such a grave sin. He promised to ensure the girls' silence but warned that the secret must be kept. He stated that any leak would bring unpredictable consequences for both of them, destroying their chances of success. The hero then approached the elf, saying it would be nice if this remained a secret just between them. Even so, Shadow Ghost pressed the dagger against his neck. She threatened that if the Count found out, he would be eliminated, but the hero retorted that he would take the elf down with him. He then grabbed Shadow Ghost's wrist, firmly pushing the dagger away, and looked at her seriously. He told her that, as a bodyguard, she should never raise her hand against her chief under any circumstances. Disarming her skillfully, he pulled her closer. She tried to resist, but something in her body seemed to disobey, making her remember her brother. She recalled how he used to reprimand her for using knives at home, fearing she would hurt herself. With a sigh of resignation, Shadow Ghost asked him to let her go, admitting she understood. The hero released Shadow Ghost's wrist. The chief ordered her to notify the girls to prepare, explaining that the day would be crucial for the city's renewal plan. When they arrived at the center, a crowd was gathered around an execution stage. The comments recalled how the previous mayor had been thrown to the crocodiles after a month, while the people murmured in confusion about rumors of a new mayor. They questioned how long he would last, as the position had never been stable there. When the hero stepped onto the stage accompanied by Emma and Xiangpu, the crowd immediately recognized him. He was the foreigner who had publicly humiliated the Count's tax collector. The people were confused, wondering how someone who had confronted the Count could be appointed mayor. The protagonist began preparing for his speech. The hero shouted for silence at that moment. He started by saying he knew they had many questions, but he quickly clarified that he wasn't there as a mayor to answer questions. He began speaking, saying he was there for 3 clear reasons. He declared the reasons were to earn money, make money, and generate even more money. He promised that within 3 months, he would ensure every citizen in the city earned 100 gold coins. The crowd burst into laughter and protests, calling him a lunatic for making such absurd promises. The chief ignored the criticism and called Emma. He asked Emma to throw papers into the crowd, and she did. A citizen picked up a sheet and upon reading it, discovered it was an order to kill crocodiles. The mayor explained that the reward would be 1 gold coin per crocodile, as long as the armor remained intact. He revealed his plan to use crocodile skins to manufacture magic-resistant armor. He stated that crocodile armor had once defeated the powerful magical army of the United States of Sinja. These armors would be sold to rival countries, generating immense profits for the city and the count. The crowd, initially skeptical, began discussing the implications of the proposal. While some saw an opportunity, others feared reprisals for killing the sacred crocodiles. However, upon seeing the count's watermark on the order, they began reconsidering. Earlier, the hero had requested the count's permission to issue an order to kill crocodiles. The count granted permission, but it was valid for only 3 months. The hero explained to the crowd that the permission was granted by the count himself, valid for only 3 months, and assured them they could trust it. Still skeptical, the crowd demanded guarantees, asking the mayor to address their hunger before proposing something so risky. The chief reflected on how the count had exploited the city, causing the citizens to completely lose trust in their lord. The guards suggested dispersing the crowd, but the chief knew this would only escalate the unrest, saying the discontent had already reached its peak. He realized the situation was becoming unsustainable and needed a quick solution. Without one, it would be a lost cause. From atop a building, someone aimed a crossbow at the stage. As he pondered how to regain the people's trust, an arrow shot through the air and pierced the hero's chest. Emma, holding the hero in her arms and desperate, called out, "Lord Hero." The hero placed his hand over her mouth. He asked her to be quiet and corrected her, asking to be called Lord Baron. Emma, crying profusely, asked the Baron if he was okay. The hero, laughing, remarks that he forgot he had purchased a steel-lined vest the previous day. The hero's employee continues staring at the arrow and comments that it is peculiar. Suddenly, the hero begins to feel immense pain. The Baron starts bleeding from where the arrow struck him. He places his hand on his chest and states that the arrow pierced halfway through the steel vest. His mercenary bodyguard advises him not to move to avoid worsening the wound. She then breaks the arrow, leaving only the tip embedded in his chest. The hero insists he's fine and urges her to go after the assassin. The bodyguard warns of the danger of other assassins and identifies the crossbow as belonging to the Abyssal Iron Knights. The boss, Invisible Pain, mentions the Abyssal Iron Knights, while the mercenary confirms that if it's truly them, capturing them now is impossible, and there's no need to pursue them. At that moment, a knight appears atop a building. He jumps and lands in the middle of the crowd. He charges toward the stage where the hero is. The soldiers shout orders not to let the knight approach the Baron. They prepare to attack but fail. The knight uses a shield to repel the soldiers, throwing them far away. The warrior plants his shield on the ground, blocking arrows and spears with his impenetrable defense. The mercenary notices the knight's armor resists weak weapons and volunteers to face him, receiving orders to leave him alive. Suddenly, the hero's employee recognizes the knight and calls him grandfather. The knight throws the soldiers aside and leaps toward the stage. He then jumps directly to where the hero is, declaring that he will pierce the hero's brain for kidnapping young Xianpu. She immediately interrupts, saying he's mistaken and that the hero saved her. The knight, surprised, halts his attack and embraces her, asking if she's okay and if anyone hurt her. Xianpu reassures him that she's fine. She explains that Myrto's guards almost cut off her hand when they captured her, but the hero saved her and punished them. The knight then removes his helmet, revealing an elderly man with a scar over his eye, and questions the hero about what happened. The hero confirms the events. The knight, enraged, grabs the hero by the neck and demands to know why he heard that the hero tricked Xianpu to save him, and if he conspired with Myrto to kidnap his granddaughter. The hero winces in pain as his wound is aggravated. The mercenary points a dagger at the knight, threatening to pierce his head if he harms the boss. The knight identifies her as a dark elf from the Shadow Valley and questions her ability to use shadow magic. Shadow Ghost asks if the old man is a secret agent sent by Job, considering he wields an abyssal crossbow. The old man retorts, saying Shadow Ghost's magic won't penetrate his spiny crocodile armor. The boss is shocked to learn the knight's armor is made from spiny crocodiles. The old man begins threatening the hero, warning him of trouble if he ever touches his granddaughter again. The hero touches the knight's armor, fascinated by it. He then questions the knight if the armor is indeed made from crocodile skin. The knight confirms, asking what the hero could do about it. Looking him in the eye, the hero remarks that crocodile hunting is prohibited in the kingdom. The knight counters, saying crocodiles are wild animals, and he's killed hundreds of them. He proudly admits, pounding his chest, that his armor was made from the skins of 7 crocodiles. The hero is incredulous that the old man slaughtered 7 crocodiles. The knight asks if the hero is angry because he interrupted the hero's speech by making such a declaration. The crowd questions the old man's sanity, criticizes the mayor for offering rewards to hunt crocodiles, and fears retaliation if they're caught. Waving at the old man, the hero says he did a good job and hands him a reward of 7 gold coins. The citizens are astonished to see the hero actually pay for the work, remarking that they wouldn't earn that much in 5 years of labor. The old man, dumbfounded, asks the hero if he's serious. Snapping his fingers, the hero says that's not all. Suddenly, the red-haired innkeeper climbs onto the stage carrying flowers and a card. The hero seizes the moment to announce that the first 50 people to hunt crocodiles will receive a Jade Palace VIP card, granting them a free stay and exclusive discounts. Lan Lu concludes by telling everyone to go and bring their families. The crowd is energized by the news, while the knight remains confused by the outcome. 4 hours earlier, in the red-haired proprietor's room, Lord Gordon cornered her against the wall with his arm. She asked why the sudden visit and then questioned whether it was because Shadow Ghost hadn't served him well the previous night. With a shy face, the red-haired woman reflected on how men seem more motivated when they wake up for the first time after a night. She continued to imagine that, with this gesture, she might finally become the Baron's woman. In her imagination, she pictured the Baron grabbing her, and she responded, asking him to wait until the evening because he had a speech to deliver in the square. Then she imagined the chief saying it had to be now, suggesting that Shadow Ghost might not have been enough for him during the night. In her fantasy, he remarked that elves were weaker than he had thought. Resigned in her daydream, she accepted, saying there was nothing she could do and telling him to unleash all the frustration he had invented during the night. Suddenly, she snapped back to reality as the hero said, "Excellent," placing his hands on the wall and stating that she wasn't there. The proprietor asked who wasn't there and wondered if he was confusing her with someone else. The hero explained that he had realized when Shadow Ghost used her magic, the walls became warm, but now they were cold, indicating she wasn't there. Lan Lu reflected on how it took the Baron only one night to discover the characteristics of shadow magic. The hero then asked Lan Lu if she wanted to make a lot of money. Embarrassed, Lan Lu admitted that of course she did. She dreamed of it every night. The hero told her she would belong to him if he helped her earn 100,000 gold coins in 6 months to pay off her debt. Lan Lu was caught off guard by his proposition. She then told the hero that if he truly wanted her now, she wouldn't deny him. The hero quickly asked Lan Lu to sign a contract to become his business partner. Surprised by the word partner, the proprietor listened as he proposed to pay off the palace's debts in 6 months in exchange for 70% of the annual profits and complete control over marketing. However, he assured her that he wanted to remain behind the scenes, leaving her as the face of the palace. Lan Lu realized that refusing the proposal would mean losing the palace. She considered the possibility of earning 100,000 crocodile coins in 6 months and concluded that with Baron Gordon, it was entirely feasible. She agreed to sign, quickly placing her blood mark on the contract. The hero then asked the proprietor to help him procure some gold cards with Jade Palace engraved on them. Back at the stage, where the crowd was in an uproar, Lan Lu remarked on the Baron's brilliant strategy. Soldiers fed a bonfire while others speculated whether the elder would be executed for harming his colleagues. Suddenly, the hero removed his luxurious coat and threw it into the fire. The crowd wondered why he was burning his clothes, as the coat was worth over 1,000 gold coins. Emma was in shock, exclaiming that 1,500 gold coins had just gone up in flames before her eyes. The hero began another speech, acknowledging the people's hatred for the aristocracy. He admitted that, once, he had been a noble who ate as he pleased, exploited others for his gain, and wielded control over his domains and fortune. Kneeling, he declared that Emma, the holy guide, had helped him understand the true meaning of destiny. The hero proclaimed that destiny was a chain to be broken, calling on the people to fight and unite with him against poverty. He declared he was no longer a noble but a common citizen committed to helping the people hunt crocodiles. The protagonist announced they would kill crocodiles and get rich together on the path to happiness. The crowd enthusiastically began chanting, supporting the idea of killing crocodiles to get rich. They kept repeating the chant, "Kill crocodiles and get rich! Together on the path to happiness." The entire audience supported the hero without hesitation. Then the red-haired proprietor approached the hero from behind. She remarked that Lord Baron was incredible, needing only an hour to win the people over. She asked what his next step would be. Suddenly, the hero felt his body grow heavy and began to collapse, saying he was exhausted. Before he could fall, his mercenary bodyguard caught him. The arrow wound in his chest was bleeding more and more. Shortly after, back at the hotel, the mercenary used magic to close the arrow wound. She made him drink a liquid while he was still unconscious. The hero then woke up in his bed with Emma and the innkeeper sitting beside him. As he awoke, he asked how long he had been in a coma. Emma replied that about 4 hours had passed. The mercenary mentioned that he had almost died from blood loss. The hero dismissed it as nothing serious, explaining that since he was wearing a steel vest, the arrow had only pierced a centimeter into his chest. The mercenary clarified that Abyssal Order arrows have bleeding tips, causing death by blood loss even with non-fatal wounds. Perplexed by this, he asked why he hadn't been warned earlier. The elf replied that she didn't want to interrupt his enthusiastic speech, though it was, in truth, a small act of revenge for him threatening her earlier that morning. The hero then asked where Xiang Pu and her grandfather were and whether they had left. The innkeeper reassured him not to worry and explained that she had anticipated he would wake up looking for the old man, so she had already brought him to the palace. The hero told the innkeeper to treat the old man well since he was the key person to oversee the city's crocodile hunting operation. The old man is shown in his room, eating chicken and drinking wine, thoroughly enjoying himself and looking very pleased. Xiang Pu, his granddaughter, asked him if he hadn't told her they shouldn't accept charity from others. The old man replied that they should accept hospitality and put a piece of chicken in her mouth, telling her to shred nobility as she sees fit. The door opened, and Emma, the boss, and his bodyguard entered, with the boss asking if the food was good. The old man replied that it wasn't bad, though a bit strong and not addictive. The hero, smiling, brought him a drink, saying he'd anticipated that and brought Fire Throat for him to try. The old man remarked that the production of Fire Throat is exclusive to the royal families of the Bay and beyond the reach of ordinary men, complimenting the boss's effort to entertain him. The boss asked everyone to leave the room because he wanted to speak with the old man alone. The bodyguard questioned whether it was too dangerous to leave him alone with this bald old man, in case he tried to attack again. The boss, annoyed, told Shadow Ghost it was an order. Miss Shadow obeyed, stating that the subordinate understood. The door closed, leaving only the two of them inside the room. Shadow Ghost, angry with the boss, muttered that he was being mean to her again, and that only her brother was allowed to be mean to her. The boss informed the old man he wanted to hire him as a general advisor to hunt crocodiles and create armor from them and asked for his price. The old man remarked that he had nearly killed the boss and wasn't afraid that Job had sent him to finish the job. The boss questioned if the old man's desire to kill him was tied to his employment, asserting that they could continue discussing business as long as the hero lived. The old man remarked that it was the first time in his life he met someone like the boss and asked which demon he worked so hard for. In response, the boss said that it wasn't mentioned in the speech, but it was for money. The old man commented that as mayor, the boss could easily collect more taxes or food, yet he preferred to establish a crocodile hunting order. The boss explained that exporting labor would enrich the city, and taxes could be increased when everyone became wealthy. The old man lowered his head, saying he was starting to like him a little. The old man proposed that if he were intoxicated, he'd serve as the hero's advisor for free. Otherwise, he'd demand payment of 1,000 gold crocodiles up front. The hero agreed, stating that a deal is a deal. Excited, the old man commented that the drink could easily kill someone and planned to get the hero very drunk, believing it would be worth it. An hour later, Emma and Xiang Pu entered the room and asked how much the hero had drunk and if he was okay. The boss, with a smug and drunken smile, said he was fine and had secured a free advisory contract. However, the old man appeared to have a small problem. Drunken, the old man babbled nonsense, saying things like, "After Gordon, this is my elder brother, and whoever dares to touch him." The boss then ordered someone to put clothes on the old man and reminded everyone not to underestimate people from Chinese culture. Night falls, and the hero sleeps in his bed after a dream orchid fragrance incense is lit in his room. Suddenly, Shadow Ghost enters his room through the window. She states that dark elves are a race that doesn't give up until they get what they want, and begins her second attempt. Shadow Ghost reflects that he gave 7 gold coins to the old man, coins that came from his clothes. First, she searches the hero's coat but finds nothing. Desperate, she wonders where he hid the money but is determined to find out, saying she'll even peel his skin off if necessary. Shadow Ghost mentions that this time, she doubled the amount of dream orchid fragrance to ensure he'd stay asleep. She climbs on top of the hero, saying that even if she stabs him, he won't wake up, especially since he drank heavily. Shadow Ghost continues removing the hero's clothing, searching for the coins, but even after stripping him entirely, she finds nothing. Suddenly, she feels something pressing against her back, something very hot. In an instant, the hero grabs her forearm and flips her beneath him. Shadow Ghost wonders how, even with double the dream orchid fragrance, he's still not asleep. Embarrassed, she tells the Baron it's all a misunderstanding. But even while asleep, the hero, now sleepwalking, begins moving closer to Shadow Ghost. Despite her pleas for him to stop, he doesn't respond. Shadow Ghost briefly considers killing the hero on the spot, but in his unconscious state, the hero initiates intimate relations with Shadow Ghost. Her dagger disappears from her hand as she recalls how he drank fire throughout the previous night. Unable to resist, she succumbs, letting pleasure take over. Little by little, she surrenders to the hero, becoming submissive and gradually falling in love. Bit by bit, she finds herself hopelessly infatuated. Still in the hero's bed, Shadow Ghost remarks that he resembles a cowardly yet voracious beast, and passionately, she accepts this supreme pleasure until the fire throat is consumed by the Baron's body. In Emma's room, she wakes up to the sound of moaning. She assumes it's a ghost and becomes terrified. Morning comes, and the hero wakes up, complaining of a headache. He adds that his back feels especially sore. Emma enters his room, saying she stayed up all night thinking her room was haunted. The hero asks if she didn't sleep well during the night. Emma then asks if she can sleep with him that night. Surprised, the hero asks if something happened for her to make such a sudden request. Emma explains, clearly frightened, that her room is haunted. The hero questions her, asking where the ghost is or if she might be having nightmares. She insists it's not a nightmare but reality. The hero asks how he didn't hear anything if it was so real. Desperately, Emma begs, explaining that it's because he drank too much and slept too soundly, and she refuses to leave his room until he agrees. The hero reluctantly agrees and tells her to stop, adding that he has a lot of work to do today. He then sends Emma out of his room, instructing her to wear her old clothes, as they will dress more simply from now on. After that, he calls for Shadow Ghost, but there's no response. He taps on the wall, asking if she's there. She appears embarrassed, asking if something happened. He asks her to inform everyone to gather in his room in half an hour, as he has something to announce. With only her head sticking out of the wall, Shadow Ghost asks why he doesn't call everyone himself. The hero asks why she won't fully emerge. Shadow Ghost, flustered, says she's too tired to move anywhere. She offers to notify the others and asks for patience, though the hero questions her debilitated state. Once everyone gathers around the table, the hero declares the formation of the Crocodile City Revitalization Committee. He explains that the committee will coordinate the implementation of the revitalization plan and requests interactive questions to build a general vision of the program. The hero states that for the revitalization plan to succeed, there is only one path: trade. He explains that trade revolves around three elements: goods, customers, and profits. Continuing, he suggests starting with basic products and asks the group what they think makes something a basic product. The red-haired proprietor answers that she believes something becomes a basic product when it has value and transforms into a commodity. The hero corrects them, saying that the essence lies in value, and asks what the city's most valuable products are. He then answers himself, stating that the answer is crocodile armor. The hero explains that while the proliferation of spiny crocodiles is useful against the royal army, it contributes to poverty by isolating the city from the rest of the kingdom. He highlights that, despite the inhabitants' hatred for the ferocious crocodiles, they represent a unique and valuable biological resource for the city. The hero further explains that research shows crocodile armor has high physical and magical resistance, reaching 60% of the resistance of the rarest metals. Therefore, crocodile armor will be the first product they launch. The boss continues, saying they need to identify the target group as the customers for this product. Emma raises her hand and responds that both adventurers and soldiers will buy them. The red-haired innkeeper argues that the customers would be less wealthy countries, mercenaries, and adventurers, as the high cost limits access for major powers and elites. The hero agrees, saying they should be more precise and continue. The old man states that the customers would be countries, groups, or individuals threatened by magic but unable to afford conventional magical protection teams. The hero asks for an example. The old man mentions a small or medium-sized country often intimidated by a rival nation like the United States. The hero remarks that this is an effect, but one of the current answers is the best. He explains that due to control over land routes, it would be difficult to trade in large quantities without defeating Job and opening to sea routes. Shadow Ghost, half her body still in the wall, tells the hero not to be so puritanical and to just say it already. The hero notices that Miss Ghost is eager to hear the answer. He declares that the primary consumers of crocodile armor are powerless adventurers and mercenaries who hunt dragon bird feathers heading to the Purgatory Circle. The innkeeper adds that hunting the Pangea dragon requires high magical resistance armor, which is typically only accessible to high-level mercenaries and adventurers. She suggests that selling affordable crocodile armor to adventurers and mercenaries with low resistance could reduce mortality and generate profit. The hero then concludes they could make a lot of money. The old man explains that during the rainy season, June to September, the dragon's fire spells weaken, attracting feather hunters to Crocodile City. Surprised, the old man notes that there is less than a month until the feather hunting season. The innkeeper excitedly estimates that about 5,000 feather hunters come annually, potentially exceeding 10,000. If the net profit for each pair of armor is 5 gold crocodiles, they could earn at least 25,000 gold coins in 3 months. The hero, however, states that this isn't enough, not even close. The old man asks what would be sufficient. The hero argues that beyond armor, crocodile meat and organs could also be used as valuable commodities. The old man is surprised, asking about crocodile meat. The hero proposes investing in crocodile cuisine, making it a city specialty and promoting its nutritional benefits through advertisements, such as eating crocodile hearts to strengthen the body, eating crocodile eyes to improve vision, or the crocodile tail, which is considered an aphrodisiac. With everyone at the table in disbelief, Emma asks if it's really possible to cook spiny crocodile meat, mentioning she's feeling unwell. The old man says that when he couldn't afford other meat, he ate crocodile meat, but it always smelled like fish. Meanwhile, the hero's employee, while vomiting, recalls eating crocodile meat once and feeling so ill that she couldn't eat for 3 days. The old man adds that the crocodile tail, on the other hand, has little fishy taste and is quite chewy when cooked. The hero states that to make money, they must fully exploit the city's resources, but the priority is to capture and kill enough crocodiles. He has scouted a 15-kilometer distance to a crocodile swamp, which takes 6 hours to traverse, a journey that is too long. To save time, the hero decides to establish an outpost near the swamp, capable of housing 300 men, which will serve as headquarters. He plans to form a crocodile-killing team of young, strong men trained by the old man and deployed in the field all day. Additionally, the crocodile hunters will receive extra pay as well as a monthly subsidy for basic living defenses. The hero declares that the crocodile-killing team will be the key to effectively implementing the crocodile hunting order. Finally, the hero orders that everyone will live at the camp, except for the innkeeper, Lan Lu. The red-haired proprietor suggests that even though she lives in the palace, she could join them at the camp, wanting to grow closer to the Baron. She considers that living at the camp would limit her connections but offers a carriage for daily trips to the crocodile swamp. Shadow Ghost, who hadn't slept well the previous night, falls asleep while standing. The hero thanks the gesture but states they don't have time to rest before the feather hunting season begins. He reflects that to ensure stability in Crocodile Bay, a strong system and armed power are necessary. Otherwise, the wealth will quickly dissipate. He decides to stay at the camp to distance himself from the Count's influence and get closer to the locals, forming a crocodile hunting army under his command. With a smile, he declares that Count Myrtle will be the first step in his rise in this world. After the 4th day at the initial camp, the hero gathers the soldiers and announces that, as they've chosen to be part of the crocodile hunting team, they are now subject to training and management. From that day forward, they will have a leader for their crocodile hunting team, and the hero points to the old man. The old man remarks that the ferocity of crocodiles might not be obvious to them. With the intent to improve their skills and teach techniques for hunting armored crocodiles, he presents an adult crocodile he has just captured, fully armored with spines. The soldiers are impressed by the crocodile's spiky armor and praise the old man, who introduces himself as a veteran of the Iron Abyss Knights. The old man announces that he will release the crocodile so the soldiers can familiarize themselves with its habits. As he opens the cage, he suddenly remembers that he forgot to put a muzzle on the crocodile. The crocodile quickly lunges at the old man. The soldiers panic, shouting that he has gone mad. The hero watches the entire scene with a smile on his face. Suddenly, the old man subdues the crocodile, positioning himself underneath it and pushing its mouth away. He instructs the soldiers that if this happens to them, they should follow his commands exactly. He warns them never to sit on the spiny crocodile's back without crocodile armor or steel protection for their legs, groin, and hands. He explains that crocodiles can rip off limbs in an instant with a single spin and warns that sitting atop one will only lead to disaster. The old man assures them that what he just described is a contingency plan and that as long as they follow his instructions for hunting crocodiles, they will remain safe. He explains that the crocodile's most vulnerable part is its abdomen, but it rarely exposes this area, much like no one reveals their bird eggs during a fight. A soldier from the crowd asks if they can't strike the abdomen or back, then where should they hit? He sarcastically asks if it's the tail. The old man replies that it's not the tail but the crocodile's mouth, the second most vulnerable zone after the abdomen. Another soldier questions how they can open the crocodile's mouth to strike it. The old man explains they have a special spear with a piece of meat attached to it. He advises them to point it at the crocodile's mouth and throw it. The hero then demonstrates by picking up the spear. The crowd is amazed, seeing the mayor himself perform the demonstration, praising his bravery. The old man explains that the dangling meat lures the voracious creatures to open their mouths and devour it. As soon as they open their mouths, he instructs them to pierce it and push firmly. During this time, the injured crocodile will fight back ferociously, but it's crucial to hold the spear tightly and not let go for at least 5 breaths. One soldier recounts how 6 months ago, a crocodile attacked him. When he stabbed its jaw with a dagger, he only managed to open its mouth slightly. He took the opportunity to escape, but the crocodile chased him for 5 kilometers. Suddenly, the soldier is astonished as the hero kills the crocodile with a single strike. In disbelief, he asks how the hero managed to do it. The old man explains that the secret to crocodile hunting is a hallucinogenic fish mushroom. The crowd becomes excited at this revelation, mentioning that the mushroom has a strong smell, which they've encountered in the swamp before. The old man explains that the hallucinogenic fish mushroom grows in the shade of rotting wood and stones in the swamps, emitting a strong fishy odor. He elaborates that the mushroom has a narcotic effect, and its juice can be used to coat the spear, rendering the crocodile unconscious within 5 breaths. After this revelation, the crowd becomes encouraged, saying they can handle it. It is announced that the first 50 crocodile hunters will receive a bonus of 1 gold crocodile. Emma comments that everyone is excited, and the hero, as mayor, feels relieved and confident that the soldiers won't return to the camp. Thus, the hunt begins, with everyone heading to the swamp. The soldiers manage to hunt some crocodiles and bring them back to the camp. The hero believes that with a team of 400 hunters and local villagers, they can capture over 5,000 crocodiles in 10 days. Suddenly, the old man embraces the boss, saying he has encountered a very difficult problem. The sap of 2 hallucinogenic fish mushrooms must be applied to the weapons to anesthetize the crocodiles, enough to capture between 200 and 400. A full set of crocodile armor requires at least 7 crocodiles, which means only 60 sets could be produced. The hero remarks that if they can't gather enough resources around the swamp, the team can be sent to deeper areas to hunt and collect crocodiles simultaneously. He then realizes the difficulty lies not only in armored crocodiles and asks if there are other problems in the swamp besides crocodiles. The old man reveals that within the crocodile swamp lies the land of swamp frogmen, claiming that, for the people of the Crocodile Bay Kingdom, the swamp frogmen are 100 times more terrifying than crocodiles. In the castle of Lunar Wreck, also known as the Count's Castle, Shadow Ghost had returned to her master. The Count remarks that she failed to find the hero's belongings. Shadow Ghost, bowing to the Count, admits she is incompetent. The Count states that the hero is excellent at hiding his wealth, as not even the Shadow Ghost could locate it. He concludes that the hero must have been prepared for this encounter or had everything arranged in advance. The Count instructs the mercenary to continue searching for the boss's thousands of gold coins, emphasizing that they cannot simply vanish. The elf replies, "Yes, Lord Count." Shadow Ghost spends about half an hour reporting the recent events. The Count is surprised to learn that the townsfolk not only embraced the idea but also formed a crocodile hunting team, aided by supposed veterans of the Abyssal Iron Knights. Shadow Ghost mentions that the old man is about 70 years old, wears crocodile armor, and is skilled in combat. The Count reflects that there couldn't be 70-year-olds in the Abyssal Iron Knights since their labor was strictly managed between ages 20 and 40, and the order was officially formed less than 10 years ago. He notes that, after nearly being assassinated, the old man quickly won over the people and even shared a drink with his would-be killer. The Count asks if the crocodile hunting has begun, and the elf reports that the old man taught the townsfolk to hunt safely. In half a day, they had killed over 40 crocodiles. To save time, the Baron ordered equipment to be set up near the swamp. The Count comments that the Baron shouldn't live long. The elf counters, asserting that he's merely a weak man focused on making money and poses no real threat. Demonstrating his authority, the Count gazes at Shadow Ghost from top to bottom and remarks that, despite her reserved demeanor, she now speaks too freely for him after just 2 days together. He asks if she would attempt to seduce the Baron over time. She denies this vehemently, stating she has only observed his ability to generate wealth and remains loyal to the Count. The Count, satisfied with her response, lets her go. As she leaves, the Count reminds her that dark elves are a forbidden race, and that her position depends on being used as a weapon in the shadows. Shadow Ghost lowers her head and says she understands. After Shadow Ghost departs, one of the Count's mermaids appears, remarking that he has never spoken so harshly to the little Shadow Ghost before. She asks what is happening. The Count coldly tells her not to ask unnecessary questions and instead inquires about the dam at Crocodile's Maw. The mermaid, Sea Ice Kiss, reports that the 3rd batch of alchemical explosives has been placed at the dam's base, awaiting the 4th batch. The Count states that the final batch will be sent in 3 months. The mermaid, surprised by the timeline, questions how Gordon will manage to gather 100,000 coins within that period. The Count asserts that this is the hero's role and that, afterward, he will no longer need him alive. The mermaid becomes desperate, realizing that the explosives are a deadly weapon intended to destroy the dam at Crocodile's Maw and the Abyssal Iron Knights. The Count explains that the explosives, called Absolute Purity, are the greatest achievement of the Alchemical Society, and that they nearly exhausted all his funds. He asserts that alchemy can defeat the knights, whereas magic cannot. The mermaid mentions that killing Gordon could prevent them from finding the Golden Isle, and its riches. The Count declares that once he becomes the king of Crocodile Bay, money will be nothing more than an accessory. Later, the hero relaxes in a pool, reflecting that it is time to return to the camp and soon negotiate with the frogmen. Suddenly, the mermaid Maria appears in the pool where he is. Blushing as she looks at the hero, she says it's been a while since they've seen each other. The hero asks how she got in, and the mermaid responds that it's a secret of ice athlete mermaids. He notices something on her leg but refuses to touch it. The mermaid claims to have life or death information but says she'll only reveal it if rewarded. The hero hesitates, mentioning that Shadow Ghost might enter, but the mermaid reveals that she found Shadow Ghost's leg injured. Surprised, the Baron reflects on how she got hurt since she's been with him the entire time and wasn't sent on missions. The mermaid hugs the hero and pleads for him to leave Shadow Ghost alone. In exchange for the information, she demands a reward. The hero pulls her close and kisses her, but she reacts by blowing hot steam into his face. At that moment, Emma enters the bathroom, announcing that she's going to bathe too. Acting quickly, the hero submerges the mermaid in the water, mentally apologizing. Uncomfortable, the hero tries to convince Emma that sharing a bath with another man isn't a good idea. He suggests she patiently wait for him to finish. Determined, Emma ignores the suggestion. Without hesitation, she jumps into the pool while trying to say something to the hero, but he can't hear her because her voice is muffled by the water. Meanwhile, the Baron, after being called Lord Hero by Emma, decides to correct her form of address. He asks her to start calling him Lord Baron from now on, asserting his authority. Emma, with her stubborn personality, responds that everyone already calls him that, and she doesn't want to be like the others. She reminds him that he allowed her to call him Lord Hero in private, something she treasures. Underwater, the mermaid observes everything with a sulking expression, considering this a critical moment. With a determined gaze at the hero, the mermaid comes up with a peculiar idea to cheer him up while staying submerged. The hero, on the other hand, is distracted, talking to Emma when he feels something odd in the water. He realizes the mermaid is playing with him underwater, leaving him visibly flustered. Unsure how to react, he tries to figure out what's happening while Emma continues talking. The mermaid continues teasing the hero underwater, making him blush. Emma comments that she thinks the hero is angry with her for her unreasonable behavior. The hero downplays the situation, attributing his reaction to the hot water, and suggests that Emma call him whatever she wants when they're alone. Meanwhile, the mermaid persists in her underwater antics, confusing him even more. He tries to push her head away but fails, realizing the mermaid's determination. In her mind, the mermaid justifies her actions as punishment for him pushing her into the water. Emma, saddened, mentions that she feels useless since the hero has given others missions while she, his sacred guide, has hardly helped. The hero recalls when Emma healed his chest wound, but she remains worried about her perceived lack of contribution. He redirects the focus, assigning Emma the task of gathering detailed information about the swamp frogs, including trivial details like how they use their fingers to remove mucus. Determined, Emma stands up and promises the hero she'll complete the task immediately, smiling brightly. Relieved, the hero asks her to take care of herself, and she agrees, waving as she leaves. After Emma leaves, the hero turns to the mermaid and, losing patience, pushes her against the wall. He confronts her, saying she's taken her jokes too far. Smiling shyly, she asks if he really didn't like it, mentioning that she quenched his fire with her mouth. Frustrated, the hero demands she explain the information she claimed to have. The mermaid reveals that Count Myrto expects him to pay 100,000 coins in 3 months, but this isn't just a test. Confused, the hero questions why he would need 100,000 crocodile coins in such a short time. The mermaid explains that this is only the first piece of information, adding that to continue, she'll need another gift. She mentions that the value exchange system works this way, with each piece of information requiring something in return. The statement makes the hero uncomfortable because, for the first time, he feels negative emotions upon hearing value exchange. Later, the group gathers at a table to discuss the situation in more detail. The innkeeper Lan Lu highlights that it's too dangerous to send only the hero and Emma to the crocodile swamp. The old man agrees, reminding everyone that not even the kingdom's regular army would dare cross that territory. He recounts how Count Myrto managed to defeat an army of 10,000 men with only 3,000. The elf, Shadow Ghost, emphasizes the danger, explaining that the swamp frogmen are agile and use water and earth magic. She details how they can create swamps out of nowhere and swallow entire armies within moments. The hero, prepared for resistance from the group, stands up and asks a provocative question. He questions whether the dead count or the swamp frogmen represent the greatest danger. Before anyone can answer, he clarifies that he just wanted to illustrate, not compare, and apologizes, especially to Shadow Ghost. The red-haired innkeeper comments that no one there would dare answer such a question confidently. Finally, Shadow Ghost asserts that the Count is far more dangerous than the subhuman natives. The hero justifies negotiating with the Count as an act recognizing the courage required in commerce and value exchange. In this context, he mentions it's also possible to negotiate with the swamp frogmen to reach an agreement. Xian Pu asks what value would be necessary for such a negotiation. The hero asks Emma to show the answer, and she presents a swamp rice plant. The old man explains that, for the people of Crocodile Bay, swamp rice is noble, but for the frogmen, it's just a weed. The hero asks everyone to look closely and reveals that the plant is infested with sticky aphids. Xian Pu points out that these aphids are a major problem for farmers but a delicacy for frogs. The hero concludes by explaining that while a healthy plant is useless to the swamp frogmen, an infested one is valuable. The innkeeper asks if this information was what the Baron paid the villagers to obtain. The hero responds no, explaining that while money is almost everything, if misused, it becomes a significant loss. He argues that a monetary reward can attract many residents to provide information in the short term. However, it's likely that people would invent information just to earn the reward. Since they lack the means to quickly verify the authenticity of the information, the situation becomes complicated. The hero continues, explaining that to obtain reliable information, it's necessary to create a strong incentive. This incentive must align the residents' interests with the goal of gathering data about the swamp frogmen. He mentions spreading rumors that they had befriended the swamp frogmen. These rumors suggested the creatures would help them hunt crocodiles on a large scale. As a result, the information began to spread naturally throughout the region. Emma recounts how some farmers reported a peculiar encounter in the shadowy crocodile swamp. They found stalks of rice infested with sticky aphids in that location. When they encountered the swamp frogmen, they thought they would be killed by the creatures. However, to their surprise, the frogmen were more concerned with eating the insects on the rice stalks. They completely ignored the humans, leaving the farmers astonished. The Baron explains that the rainy season is approaching, bringing with it the sticky aphid eggs. He announces he will pay 10 copper coins for every infested rice plant. The old man interrupts, arguing that it's too dangerous for just the hero and Emma to go to the swamp. The hero insists that the crocodile hunters are still in training and need guidance. Additionally, he argues that the palace only has 50 unarmored crocodiles available. He tasks the red-haired innkeeper with recruiting a chef to prepare delicious crocodile dishes. He also assigns Shadow Ghost to mobile support between the city and the hunting camp. However, she refuses, stating her mission is to protect the Baron under the Count's orders. The hero counters, saying the Count decreed she couldn't refuse any of his requests. He clarifies that his decision is to protect her because the swamp frogmen are vengeful. According to him, Shadow Ghost has too much frogman blood on her hands. The hero reveals that Count Myrto's castle was built over a large colony of swamp frogmen. Myrto considered the frogmen inferior and ordered them exterminated before construction began. This massacre left deep scars, and Shadow Ghost would be at risk if she went to the swamp. She complies with the order, and the boss thanks her, saying he counts on her to protect everyone there. In the Baron's thoughts, he admits he wants to use the swamp frogmen's hatred against Myrto. He realizes he underestimated the Count, who sees the hero merely as a toy. Thus, he decides to use his resources to dismantle Myrto's corrupt government. After concluding the discussion, the hero delegates tasks and orders the preparations to begin. Posters are spread throughout the city offering 1 copper coin for every 10 infected rice plants. The citizens, upon reading this, become euphoric, believing they can quickly get rich. On the other hand, some question the mayor's sanity for valuing infected rice. Even the soldiers express skepticism, thinking the reward is absurd and senseless. Some residents complain, saying they work hard to prevent infestations, and now this is being rewarded. Others suspect the offer is fake, as it seems impossible to pay so much for so little. Disguised among the crowd, the hero and Emma observe the reactions closely. The chief notes that the people's irritation stems from the difficulty of finding infected rice. The hero reflects that increasing the price might attract more infected rice in less time. He admits this would be risky, as it could strain the available resources. Emma comments that this strategy has another purpose, facilitating an alliance with the frogmen. Meanwhile, the red-haired proprietor warns that the swamp is full of dangerous insects. The hero reassures her, saying he's already prepared for that with the proper equipment. He dons a special insect-proof cloak and carries a staff for safety in the swamp. The proprietor is surprised to see the outfit made from high-quality material. Shadow Ghost recognizes the uniform as belonging to the elite of Lord Count's forces. She asks how the hero acquired it, but he keeps it confidential, saying it's classified. 2 days earlier, the hero had summoned Captain Matt for a meeting at the hotel. The captain, nervous, believed he was about to be scolded or punished in some way. When Emma served a cup of tea to the captain, he noticed gold coins in the cup. Perplexed, the captain asked what the hero meant by this. The hero explained that he knew the soldiers hadn't been paid for months due to the heavy taxes. He revealed that Murto had used the resources to buy alchemical explosives instead of paying his men. The hero concluded that he would use this dissatisfaction to dismantle Murto's regime. Continuing the conversation between the hero and Captain Matt, the hero reaffirmed that, as the city's leader, his job was to improve everyone's lives. With an enigmatic smile, he hinted at other intentions, saying he needed the captain's help with another matter. Feigning loyalty, the captain knelt on the ground and promised to do everything the mayor ordered. He expressed his gratitude for the cup of tea and assured the hero of his allegiance moving forward. However, the captain secretly planned a dual strategy, showing loyalty while protecting the count's interests. He believed that if the hero's request endangered the count, he would promptly inform him, securing a double victory. Sensing the captain's ploy, the hero shifted his tone to one of fury. Confused, the captain asked what was out of control. The hero theatrically explained that his position as mayor was granted by the count, making both him and the captain subordinates of the count. He accused the captain of disloyalty, reminding him that pledging complete allegiance to him could be seen as treason. Touching the captain's shoulder, the hero questioned his loyalty to the count's government. The captain panicked, denying any doubts about the count and admitting he had made a slip. The hero theatrically suggested that perhaps Shadow Ghost should inform the count about the situation. The mere mention of Shadow Ghost sent the captain into a frenzy, questioning if she was present in the room. The hero responded that although she was no longer his bodyguard, wherever he was, she would be too. Terrified, the captain broke down in tears, begging the hero not to let Shadow Ghost report the incident. Emma, observing the scene, chuckled quietly, amused by the hero's performance. She commented that Shadow Ghost was actually relaxing at a spa with the red-haired proprietor. The hero then warned the captain that any further slip of the tongue could cost him his career. Completely subdued, the captain became a puppet in the hero's hands, manipulated through money and fear. The hero then revealed that he had heard the captain was once a member of the Red Vipers, an elite unit. Crying, the captain confirmed his connection to the group. The hero requested that he procure 2 uniforms from the unit, which the captain readily agreed to. Returning to the mission, the hero and his team arrived at the designated location for the alliance ceremony. Through Emma's contract technique, the hero manages to gather some of the swamp's chaos into his sea of knowledge. As they walk through the forest, they decide to stop and rest under the trees. The boss looks at the sky and notices heavy clouds, predicting an imminent storm. He shouts to Emma that they need to set up camp before the rain starts. Emma, distracted, doesn't respond, as she's fascinated, playing with a snail. Annoyed, the boss approaches and lightly taps her head, bringing her back to reality. Tearfully, Emma finally realizes the situation and helps set up the waterproof tent. Inside the tent, the hero warns Emma not to touch any dangerous swamp creatures. With a carefree smile, she agrees, appearing very excited about the adventure. Curious, the hero asks why she's so happy. Emma replies with determination, saying this is just the beginning of a great journey. Meanwhile, the swamp frogmen start moving through the forest. They spot the hero's tent and begin approaching silently. Inside the tent, the hero, uneasy, reflects on the imminent danger while Emma sleeps on his shoulder. Suddenly, a projectile pierces the tent, cutting off part of the hero's hair and damaging the shelter. He quickly recalls the old man's advice about the frogmen's attacks. They use small, hard objects launched forcefully with their tongues, capable of penetrating a human skull. Desperate, the hero puts protective hats on himself and Emma before pushing them to the ground. Confused, Emma complains that he's pressing on her stomach, not understanding the gravity of the situation. The attacks continue, with objects flying through the tent and piercing its structure. The hero explains to Emma that they need to wait until the frogmen pause their assault. When they finally manage to leave the tent, they carry the infected rice as bait. The frogmen, led by their chief, carefully observe their every move. The hero instructs Emma not to make sudden movements that could be interpreted as hostile. He fears the frogmen might outnumber them, hidden in the dense forest. As the storm begins, with lightning and thunder, the tension escalates. The frogmen remain motionless, staring at the hero and Emma with serious expressions. The storm rages on as both sides wait for the next move. The hero then asks Emma to put her forehead on the ground and raise her hands to show they are unarmed. The goal is to reduce the frogmen's hostility. Lastly, he asks her to leave a safe distance so the frogmen can inspect the rice. Curious, the frogmen begin investigating what the hero brought. Upon realizing it's infected rice, they become excited. They eagerly start savoring the rice. The hero confirms that the information they collected was correct. The sticky aphids on the rice are a delicacy appreciated by the swamp frogmen. While the frogmen chew, something unexpected happens. They suddenly drop the rice, and a more imposing frog appears. This frog is clearly their leader. The hero observes carefully, reflecting on the social hierarchy among the frogmen. He understands that, as in human society, They follow a strict hierarchical structure where leaders have priority in food consumption. However, upon receiving the rice from a subordinate frog, the leader steps on it with disdain. This act confuses the hero. The leader frog, now with a sinister smile, begins to attack. It lashes its tongue toward the hero. Emma bravely throws herself in front of him, shielding him. Surprised, the hero asks if Emma is okay, and she, with a pained smile, says it hurt a little but thanks her red viper uniform for the protection. The hero, perplexed, questions why the leader dislikes the sticky aphids. He then asks Emma to use her word of all things ability. Emma casts a spell on the hero. Now able to communicate directly with the frogs, he explains that he doesn't wish to harm them. His goal is merely to strike a deal with the swamp frogs. He says he wants to meet their king. The leader frog, confused by his understanding of human language, questions his intentions. Emma's ability allows the hero to communicate for 15 minutes with any race. The hero reinforces that they are not enemies. The frog leader asks why she should trust humans. The hero argues that he can offer plenty of sticky aphids. However, the frog leader rejects the offer. She points at Emma, saying she wants her eyes. The frog remarks that Emma's eyes look delicious and precious. She demands that the hero gouge out Emma's eyes and present them to the king. Incredulous, the hero asks if she's joking. The frog replies that swamp frogmen never joke. The frogs begin to surround the hero and Emma in a threatening manner. Nervously, the hero tries to negotiate. He argues that it doesn't have to be so bloody, but the frog leader grabs his neck tightly. Emma, ready to act, begins to prepare a spell. Desperate, the hero promises the frog leader that he will do as she asks. Emma, frightened, starts to understand what the hero is planning. The frog leader releases the hero's neck. The hero tells Emma that this is the only way to gain the frog's support. He picks up a knife, leaving Emma in shock. Emma, distressed, calls out to the hero in a trembling voice. The frog leader observes the scene with satisfaction. Emma finally understands the situation. She says that if her eyes can help the hero, she won't hesitate. Tears streaming down her face, she smiles sadly. Suddenly, the hero kicks Emma aside. The frog leader, confused, asks what he is doing. The hero angrily shouts that he will make them all freeze together. The frogs, stunned, watch as the hero throws an ice stone into the air. The impact instantly freezes all the frogs around them. Emma, bewildered, tries to understand what just happened. The hero, exhausted, feels the effects of the ice explosion. His hand begins to tremble as he reflects on what he has done. Emma, concerned, asks if he is okay. Emotionally shaken, the hero hugs Emma, confusing her for his younger sister Xiaoxi. He says he is glad she is safe. Emma, puzzled, asks why the hero's body is so cold. Still disoriented, the hero murmurs that no one can hurt her now. Unconscious, the hero begins to dream of his past, remembering when he was just a child living with his sister. It was a cold and tense day, and he was carrying 2 cans of meat. As he walked, he said he had gotten a big box of canned meat for just $5 at a sale. With that, his sister would have canned meat for the next week. 2 boys approached, and one of them, with disdain, called him a little bridge beggar, while the other, chubbier boy, asked what he had brought for them. Outraged, the hero denied being a beggar, said he earned his own money, and mocked the boys, claiming that without their parents, they would starve, making them the real beggars. The chubby boy, irritated, punched the hero in the face, knocking him to the ground. While the hero was down, the chubby boy grabbed snow from the ground and began suffocating him, saying he wanted free ice cream. The other boy picked up the can of meat and said he expected something better. Desperate, the hero screamed for them not to touch it, saying it was his. Ignoring him, the boy opened the can to taste it and grimaced, declaring it was awful. He spat it out on the ground and threw the can toward the river. The hero watched furiously as his food was hurled into the river. In desperation, he grabbed a rock and struck the boy, suffocating him, knocking him down, crying in pain. The other boy, frightened, begged the hero not to hurt him. The hero ignored the plea and jumped into the river to retrieve his food. In the icy water, he tried to recover the can of meat. However, he began to lose feeling in the lower half of his body and realized how cold it was, struggling to stay conscious. Still hallucinating, he woke up inside a cabin where Emma was tending to his wounds. He looked at Emma but, in his confusion, saw her as his younger sister. Moments later, he returned to reality and recognized Emma again. She smiled at him and said the hero had finally woken up. Still trembling from the cold, the hero reflected on the side effects he was feeling. Emma asked where he had learned such powerful ice magic. Confidently, the hero replied that it was confidential and he couldn't reveal it. Annoyed, Emma said he wasn't fun at all. The hero recalled that the magic wasn't obtained through normal commercial means. He began to remember an encounter he had with the mermaid Maria. He recalled her telling him that he should try harder in the future. The hero joked that he was more likely to die at the hands of the mermaid than from any dead man. Maria responds that she cannot help it, as mermaids require more strength than humans. She also mentions that she will visit him every 10 days. Before leaving, she gives the hero an artifact as an advance payment. The hero asks what it is, and Maria explains that they are cold pearls from the Ice Palace. She says these pearls contain enough magic to cast epic-level ice spells, leaving the hero surprised as he asks what epic level means. Maria explains that few magicians in the world can use epic-level spells. She adds that magicians capable of such feats are strategic weapons for their countries. The hero asks how long the magic effect lasts on his body. Maria explains that since he is not a magician, his body cannot absorb magic for long, so the ice magic will remain in his system for a maximum of 10 minutes. She also warns that excessive use could severely damage his organs. The hero concludes that, in extreme situations, he could die from freezing. Maria reassures him, saying the impact is smaller if he uses weaker spells. Curious, the hero asks what materials are used to make the pearls. Maria, with a teasing smile, responds that it is not about cost. She explains that the pearls are created in the wombs of ice mermaids. The hero realizes that the 3 pearls he received are extremely valuable. Maria says one belongs to her and the others to her 2 servants. Each pearl takes 100 to 150 days to be created. The hero comments that if sold, these pearls would be worth a fortune in gold. Maria confirms this but demands he promise never to commercialize them. The hero asks why she is so strict about this. Maria replies that her clan's mermaids were once hunted nearly to extinction, precisely because of the greed for the pearls they produce. In the tent, Emma remarks that the hero is no longer normal, prompting the hero to casually ask what normal would look like for him. Emma explains that even while dying, he still wants to make money. She asserts that he would even use his own life as currency. She adds that if he could bring peace between the swamp frogmen and humans, the city's people would have better lives through his vision. The hero, trying to lighten the mood, pats Emma's head and says he would never trade her for anything in the world, simply because she is herself. Emma becomes shy and blushes at this. However, she is taken aback when the hero adds that she is so stupid that she wouldn't fetch much if someone tried to buy her. Emma reacts indignantly, jumping on the hero and yelling that he is talking nonsense, insisting she is not stupid. Meanwhile, the hero silently reflects that one reason not to negotiate with the frogmen is that their leader had intended to kill them from the start. The hero explains that they now have the task of hiding the bodies in the swamp and erasing any traces. Emma is horrified upon hearing the phrase, "hide the bodies." The hero tries to calm her, explaining that other frogmen could find their comrades' bodies, and concludes by saying they might not even leave the swamp alive. Emma listens intently as the hero asserts that, as the sacred guide, it would be too much for her to dispose of the bodies. Emma defends the hero, justifying the attack as necessary, and promises to share the punishment if he violates the doctrine in the future. She proudly claims to be the hero's only sacred guide. They begin clearing the area, hiding the frogmen's bodies and throwing them into the river. As he does this, the hero reflects that if he hadn't considered Emma's gaze, he might not have killed them. While throwing a body into the river, he hears a chilling voice. The voice belongs to the frogman he is carrying, warning him that killing it will not satisfy him and that Emma won't live long. The voice continues, reminding him that Emma blocked its attack and that a frogman's tongue is extremely venomous. The hero tries to reassure himself, recalling that he had prepared an antidote for such situations and that Emma's armor was very hard to penetrate. Even so, he feels disturbed by the frogman's last words as it is tossed into the river. Emma, who had been praying, sees the hero running toward her. He quickly approaches and rips her blouse off. Emma, confused, asks what he is doing, insisting he cannot do this as she is his sacred guide. The hero ignores her protests and examines her shoulder. He notices a blue mark and realizes that Emma has been poisoned. He explains the situation to Emma, who becomes increasingly frightened. The hero opens her mouth and pours an antidote, urging her to drink it quickly. Emma swallows the liquid with a disgusted expression, complaining about the horrible taste. The hero asks how she feels. Emma replies that her mouth and tongue feel uncomfortable and bitter. The hero smiles, saying that regardless, the important thing is to detoxify her. After 16 minutes, the mark on Emma's shoulder slightly diminishes. The hero confirms the antidote is working but insists Emma use a healing spell despite his confidence in its effectiveness against the poison. Emma begins healing her shoulder, complaining that the hero is overly cautious. The scene shifts to Crocodile Bay, the kingdom's capital. A man identified as the guardian mage of the Fasci family lies on a wooden table, visibly suffering. The king of the city asks what's going on. A soldier explains that, following the king's orders, Lord Fasci bought gold from smugglers and was ambushed by frogmen on his way back, where he was poisoned. The king, irritated, comments on the insolence of the frogmen. The soldier explains that the blue poison, known as blue tear of ice, is lethal and difficult to cure. She also mentions that using magic after being poisoned accelerates the spread of the toxin. The king reflects on whether he should reward the man for bringing the gold without losing it. Meanwhile, Miss Fashi enters, crying upon seeing the man's condition. The king looks at Fashi, still dazed by the situation, saying that the man was a loyal servant and didn't deserve this fate. He tries to console her, saying he will take care of her. However, the woman rejects his advances, visibly uncomfortable. The king threatens her, mentioning that according to the kingdom's laws, she has no right to inheritance. He insinuates that Lord Fashi's parents and siblings might die unexpectedly. The frightened woman tries to argue, but the king silences her with harsh words. Abusing his position, the king orders the woman to lie next to her deceased husband and present herself to him. In that room, the king and Miss Fashi begin to have relations. Back in the swamp, Emma and the hero continue scouting the area. Suddenly, Emma collapses to the ground, startling the hero. He rushes to her, noticing her body is extremely cold. The hero observes that the toxin marks have spread all over Emma's body. The hero, in despair, notices that the blue tint has already begun to fade. He grabs several antidote vials and has Emma drink them one after another, quickly. Desperate, he asks Emma if she's feeling better, but she replies that she needs to rest. Emma asks him to continue negotiating with the frogman once she recovers, but he insists there will be no negotiations. The hero declares the contact with the frogman aborted and decides to send a signal to Shadow Ghost. Emma grabs his arm and pleads with him not to give up, saying he is the hero of benevolence. She insists that even without her, he must take responsibility and save the city. The hero retorts that he doesn't care about that responsibility and activates the device to summon Shadow Ghost. 8 hours earlier, Lan Lu expressed her concerns about the Baron going to the swamp. She questioned whether the frogmen would appreciate the sticky aphids offered as tribute, or if they only liked killing. An old man at the table tried to reassure her, saying Gordon always acts cautiously and has an emergency plan. He explained that in case of danger, fireworks would be launched every 10 minutes to ensure a rescue. When questioned about the source of the fireworks, the hero told the old man that with money, he could get anything. Lan Lu remarked that Gordon seemed powerful when talking about money, but the old man warned that rain might prevent the fireworks from igniting. Back in the present, the hero tries to light a firework, but the heavy rain prevents it. The hero laments the untimely rain while Emma urges him not to worry about her. The hero insists on taking her back and carries her in his arms, running through the torrential rain. As he runs frantically, he stumbles and falls to the ground with Emma. Emma tells him she feels very cold, and he hugs her to keep her warm, promising to protect her. Emma asks who Xiao Xie is, the name he called out while fainting. He explains that Xiao Xie is his younger sister, and reveals that his real name is Gaoi. He recounts how, as orphans, he and his sister depended on each other to survive during their childhood. Emma closes her eyes and mentions that she is also an orphan, but the hero notices her eyes are freezing. Desperate, he begs her not to die, calling her his sacred guide. He laments his choices, saying he should have brought Shadow Ghost and the old man. The hero blames his decision to negotiate a loan for Emma's condition, declaring that he has killed her. Suddenly, an imaginary figure appears, touching the hero's shoulder with a provocative comment. She says that Emma was just a tool and that other tools can easily be found. Enraged, the hero grabs the figure by the neck, but she vanishes with a sarcastic smile. He punches the ground repeatedly, yelling in anger, until he hears a woman scream in the distance. Confused, he looks to the side and sees a woman with a human body but amphibian extremities. He notices that she hasn't attacked him directly, and concludes that she might be able to cure Emma's poison. The hero explains that they risked their lives to save the land from war and begs for her help. The woman says in a peculiar dialect that the blue poison can be cured with another venom. She enigmatically mentions that greedy humans trade lives for jade pills. The hero collapses to his knees, exhausted, as he looks at the girl and says that humans have hurt the frogs before. He apologizes for this but also asserts that there are good people among them, trying to convince her. If both sides continue to hate, the cycle of death will never end, and tragedies will persist endlessly. With hope, he wishes to build a bridge between the two sides and pleads that if the girl saves Emma, she can ask for anything she wants. The woman looks at him suspiciously, approaches his face, grabs his cheeks firmly, and with a mocking look, asks him to show his tongue. Confused, the hero obeys without hesitation but soon complains of pain, saying she's pulling too hard. She laughs disdainfully, saying his tongue is small and short, and to prove it, she shows hers, which is 3 times longer. Proudly, she declares that her tongue is much prettier, but before he can react, she grabs something spiky and holds his tongue. Calmly, she explains that this is an ancient family tradition used to seal agreements between conflicting parties. The ritual involves binding the parties' tongues and piercing them 3 times with the spiritual tip of an oregano fox. Incredulous, the hero asks if there isn't a more hygienic way, but she mocks him, saying he doesn't deserve peace if he lacks courage. With a provocative tone, she warns that Emma's poison is spreading rapidly and that without action, there will be no way to save her. Determined, the hero accepts the ritual, takes a deep breath, and feels his heart race as their tongues draw closer. The next moment, the pain is intense as their tongues are pierced, and he screams loudly, feeling the blood flow. She places a Tsuilu mouth larva on his tongue, explaining that its mucus will quickly stop the bleeding. Reluctantly, the hero accepts the larva, carries Emma on his back, and sets off under the relentless rain. Meanwhile, in the forest, Shadow Ghost follows the hero and Emma's tracks, finding infected rice and traces of the Baron. She overhears Swamp Frogman talking about searching everywhere but failing to find Tukabega or the others. Suddenly, a gigantic hand emerges from the shadows, grabbing one of the frogs by the head and killing it brutally. The monstrous creature threatens that if the missing ones aren't found, everyone will die, leaving Shadow Ghost paralyzed. Elsewhere, Lan Lu questions Shadow Ghost's whereabouts, and the old man replies that she went to protect the hero. Lan Lu reflects on the changes in Shadow Ghost since she became the Baron's woman, concluding that she desires to be the primary wife. Determined, Lan Lu vows not to give up and rises, ready to act. In the dead of night, Emma and the hero follow the woman, who suddenly stops. The hero asks where they are going. The woman looks at the river and says that once they reach her home, she can detoxify Emma. Confused, the hero asks if her home is in the water. The woman confirms without hesitation. She states that if they jump into the river, they'll reach the location. But the hero hesitates, frightened, saying they're not frogs. Calling him a coward, the woman grabs the hero's arm and pulls him underwater along with Emma. Underwater, the hero feels his breath running out and thinks he won't make it until he sees a white light at the bottom. In an instant, they appear in a forest filled with giant mushrooms, and the hero, panting, asks where they are. The woman calmly responds that this place is her home, the tranquil valley of mushrooms. A small frog jumps onto the woman's thigh, smiling and saying she's finally back. Annoyed, the woman shouts that she's already warned not to touch her, pushing the frog away brusquely. She warns the hero that the blue poison is spreading on Emma's skin and that they must act quickly to save her. The three continue walking among the mushrooms until they stop in front of an imposing creature. The woman turns and announces to clan leader Quian that she has brought the humans back. With a deep voice, the leader declares that the woman's whims have gone too far. The woman begins a heated argument with him, speaking in a language the hero cannot understand. Meanwhile, a small frog approaches the hero, saying that humans are smelly and shouldn't be there, surprising him by speaking his language. The clan leader orders the smaller frog to kill the humans immediately, and she advances to obey. The woman reacts quickly, spitting forcefully at the frog, sending it flying. While protecting the hero, she shouts to the leader that they cannot kill her, revealing that she and the hero share a sacred pact. The hero finally understands that the disgusting ritual they performed was significant to the frog people. With the pact in place, the leader cannot harm them or stop them from saving Emma. Still furious, the leader questions the woman, who then asks the hero to stick out his tongue. Enraged, the clan leader demands to know how she dared to choose a human as her husband. Confused and outraged, the hero shouts, asking what is going on, but the woman ignores him. She insists there is no time to explain, and that they must immerse Emma in the chrysalis immediately. Emma's condition worsens, and the woman states that her situation is desperate. She turns to the leader and claims they are there to save lives, pleading with him to allow it. The leader hesitates but declares that as long as the Crocodile Bay Kingdom exists, peace is impossible. Determined, the hero makes a proposal, promising to destroy the Crocodile Bay Kingdom within 6 months. He adds that he will also bring the Count's head, but the leader laughs, saying he doesn't trust humans. The hero then takes something from his bag and shows infected rice, catching the leader's attention. Unable to resist, the leader lunges forward and devours the rice with delight, reminiscing about its taste, which he hasn't experienced in years. Taking advantage of the distraction, the hero, the woman, and Emma escape while the leader growls in anger. As the leader pursues the hero, vowing not to be tricked again, he is surprised by a spell from the hero summoning more rice. The leader halts his pursuit and begins collecting all the infected rice on the ground, muttering that human cunning exceeds his imagination. They rush to the chrysalis of the Emerald Butterfly King, and the woman urges the hero to act quickly. She orders him to remove Emma's clothes and cut the veins in her extremities for the treatment. Reluctant but with no choice, the hero follows her instructions. He approaches the water and places Emma, floating in the chrysalis, saying everything will be okay. As Emma gently floats, the scene shifts to the Count's castle, where he is shown standing and observing an old photograph. In the image, the Count is beside a young girl, his expression melancholic and contemplative. A soldier reports to the Count that they are under enemy attack. The soldier states that the watchtower spotted an unidentified aircraft 25 kilometers to the north. The Count reflects that only the Golden Empire and the United States possess airships so advanced and luxurious. He considers that such aircraft don't make sense in Crocodile Bay and that Ju-gu couldn't afford them. Nevertheless, he orders preparations while Shadow Ghost operates in the swamp, and Maria continues investigating the movements of the Abyss Knights. The Count reflects that 7 Deaths is missing, possibly attacked again, leaving only Mazo available among the 4 evil fangs. He demands that the castle remain on high alert, and that Mazo stay hidden as the aircraft slowly descends toward the castle. As the Count observes the skies, the aircraft approaches his mansion. Awaiting anxiously, he is informed that his giant crossbow is ready, but he soon recognizes a pattern painted on the aircraft. A chain is dropped to the ground, and the aircraft doors open like a bridge, revealing a masked woman and a henchman. The Count recognizes the toxin-resistant mask of Jacqueline the Black Scorpion, leader of the Investigation Society, and becomes alarmed. The Count questions the purpose of her visit and criticizes the unannounced invasion, noting that they have always maintained a cooperative relationship. Jacqueline laughs and remarks that it's even ruder for him to speak with his eyes closed, further infuriating the Count. Suddenly, the Count realizes he cannot move. Jacqueline explains that the gas exhaled from her left lung contains crystallized tarantula venom, which rapidly paralyzes nerves. Trying to remain calm, the Count asks what she did to his eyes but finds himself unable to use the vortex ring or summon Mazo. Jacqueline tapes the Count's eyes open, forcing them to remain that way, leaving him furious. After causing a disturbance in the sacred city, Jacqueline claims she was attacked by the Golden Fleet and pursued by them, declaring she isn't interested in the small piece of land. Reflecting on her actions, she realizes she has offended all the major powers and decides to hide in the southeast for a few months, believing it's the only place that doesn't care. She mentions that the Count wanted to purchase Absolute Purification number 4 and offers him a 20% discount as compensation for the invasion. With no alternatives, the Count accepts the offer, and Jacqueline makes him drink a capsule that eliminates paralysis almost instantly. She hands him a detox pill and orders him to take it, explaining that his right lung is emitting heavy mercury vapor. If he doesn't take it, the mercury will destroy his lungs and heart, something he confirms upon seeing his skin darken beneath his clothes. Jacqueline asks about the best inn, and the Count offers her accommodations at the castle to ease the tension. However, Jacqueline refuses, claiming the place reeks of amphibians and that she couldn't stay there for even a second longer. Irritated but composed, the Count suggests the Beigong Inn in the swamp forest, where she agrees to stay temporarily. In the forest, the exhausted hero asks the frog woman about the chrysalis, and she confirms that the liquid from the king's chrysalis can purify and reshape blood, which he considers miraculous. He asks if there are 100 chrysalises, but the woman explains there's only one, as the Tsuelu king lays only one egg in its lifetime. In the second storm season, the larvae turn into chrysalises and disappear after the cocoon breaks. She warns that had they arrived before the chrysalis formed, Emma would have died, leaving the hero deeply shaken. He laments the lack of cloning technology, and weeps over how something so rare is wasted with time, despite its perfection. Unnoticed, the hero falls asleep and collapses into the water. When he awakens, his hair and beard have grown, and he feels confused until the frog woman says he has finally woken up. While questioning what happened, the frog woman explains that he consumed chrysalis liquid, which has a sedative effect, causing him to sleep for an entire year. Desperate, he realizes he's lost a year and runs until he sees his reflection in the water, barely recognizing himself. Emma appears before him, now looking like a child with a butterfly perched on her head, leaving him stunned. The frog woman reveals that Emma is now her daughter, and Emma smiles, calling him Daddy, leaving him unable to react. The hero, still confused, asserts that he only slept for a year, so it would be impossible to have a child with that woman. He looks at Emma and notices that her appearance is indeed familiar. Suspicious, he asks the woman what she did to Emma. The frog chief explains that the poison was severe and the chrysalis restructured her blood, causing a side effect. Her body and mind regress to childhood, but he clarifies that she can return to normal by immersing her in the pupa solution every night for 10 consecutive days. The hero finally understands the situation. He turns to Emma and asks how long he truly slept, and more importantly, why she called him Daddy. The frog girl smiles and explains that Emma learned to say it as a joke taught by her over 9 days. The hero realizes it has only been 9 days, but even 9 days feel like too much for him. His expression changes as he recalls the hunting season, which begins in less than 20 days, and without the pestilent herb, capturing armored crocodiles will be impossible. If he misses the season, he'll also miss the biggest profit of the year. The hero asks the frog chief how he can reach the frogman's king. The chief responds with disdain, saying that without the pact with the woman, he would already be dead. Suddenly, Emma jumps in front of the chief and pulls on his mustache. The frog chief becomes enraged, shouting that she has torn off the beard he's had since he was 2 years old, and Emma, frightened, starts crying. The butterflies, attracted by her cries, attack the chief. Seeing this, he feels guilty, and the hero picks Emma up and begins to comfort her. To the hero's surprise, Emma seems very comfortable in his arms. Now calmer, the chief murmurs something curious. He notes how strange it is for the Tsuelu queen butterfly to act this way, as the chrysalis was broken prematurely, and now the butterflies attack because of a human girl. If Emma has bonded with the butterfly, it is significant because the Tsuelu king could become a valuable bargaining chip. But he knows the real problem lies elsewhere, as each swamp clan has its own leaders and interests. If he is to confront the Tsuyan clan, he will have to deal with its patriarch. Thus, the hero profiles the Tsuyan leader. First, he hates humans. Second, he was likely manipulated by the count. Third, he is a pacifist by nature. Lastly, he has a weakness. He cannot resist rice aphids. The situation is critical. Due to the count, there is a crisis of trust and racial tension. To gain the Tsuyan clan's trust, the hero will have to take risks. Resolute, he turns to the frog leader and declares that he is the mayor of Crocodile City, appointed by the count. The king, surprised, slams his staff on the ground, and the air grows heavy. Suddenly, the ground beneath the hero turns to mud, and he begins to sink slowly. The frog leader stares at the hero and explains that the mud is an ancient swamp spell used to bury the tribe's dead before the human invasion. Now, it's a weapon against the invaders themselves. Once someone begins sinking in the mud, escape is impossible. The more the victim struggles, the faster they sink, and the spell remains active until its victim is fully consumed. The Frog King asserts that if not for the mention of the count, he would have spared the hero's life. The frog woman, enraged, demands to know if the hero truly works for the count, and he confirms it. A deadly tension fills the air. She demands that the hero defend himself or accept his death right then and there. The hero, resigned, shrugs and asks that at least they leave his body intact, saying it's better than being fed to the crocodiles by the count. The frog leader, confused, asks why the count would want him dead. The hero avoids answering, saying it doesn't matter. He makes one final request, that they take care of Emma after his death. The Frog King demands explanations while holding Emma. With tears in his eyes, the hero thanks them for saving Emma. He states that death will be a relief for him. At the Count's castle, Shadow Ghost informs the Count that the mayor has gone missing in the swamp. Shadow Ghost reports that Gordon was attempting to persuade the frogmen to allow his team to harvest rubber herbs in the dark swamp but is facing resistance. The Count, unsurprised, remarks that the mayor was too naive to negotiate with the frogmen. Still, Shadow Ghost suggests sending more men to search for him, but the Count interrupts, refusing the idea. To him, the mayor is no longer useful. Now that Jacqueline has revealed her true form, he has other plans. The Count leaves the room, remarking that even if meat delivered to a crocodile's mouth has thorns, it won't stop it from eating. In the swamp, the frog leader watches the hero sinking slowly and states that the spell only ends when the soil is destroyed. The king summons a giant mushroom to save the hero, saying that Murdo betrayed his pact and slaughtered his entire clan, yet he did not seek death. Even as the hero continues to plead for death, the king asks the hero to share his plan for killing the Count, suggesting he might help. The hero takes a deep breath and begins to explain. The Baron decided to use the leader's prejudice and hatred against the Count. Instead of denying his connection to the Count, he admitted everything to disarm the Patriarch. Now, curiosity and hatred play in his favor. The hero declares with intensity that he seeks vengeance. He wants to eat the Count's flesh, drink his blood, and grind his bones. At the recruit camp, the red-haired proprietor laments having to use her identity again. She remarks that the hero is too rare a candidate to lose and resolves not to let him go. She begins dressing in mage robes and wields her magic staff. Determined, Lan Lu prepares to go find the Baron. The proprietor gets ready to leave in search of the Baron, but the door suddenly opens, and the Baron walks in, asking about the crocodile cooking contest. He looks confused at the proprietor's outfit, and questions why she is dressed like that. Lan Lu, caught off guard, awkwardly explains that the attire is for the hunting season in the region and to appeal to the guests. Internally, Lan Lu thinks that such an obvious lie would never fool the Baron but feels she has no choice. To her surprise, the hero accepts the excuse and even praises the idea of attracting customers in that way. He adds that depending on the profession, wearing distinctive outfits can make a real difference, suggesting that the rooms be decorated with various themes. Lan Lu, relieved, responds that she understands the suggestion but asks the reason for the sudden return and mentions having heard about the dissolution of the advanced camp ordered by the Count. The hero replies that it's a long story and explains that he just returned from the outpost. 4 hours earlier at the outpost, an old man reports a fire and an attack by the frogmen on the adventurers' team. resulting in several injuries. He believes, however, that the Baron was not captured by the frogmen, and that there must be another explanation. Suddenly, a soldier runs in, bringing urgent news about the Count's arrival at the location. Shortly after, the Count appears with his troops and gets straight to the point, stating that 10 days have passed since the mayor's disappearance in the dark swamp. The Count explains that he sent a search team and found signs of conflicts with the frogmen, concluding that the mayor was killed by the creatures. Announcing his decision, the Count says he will dissolve the crocodile-killing squad and take over the camp. The soldiers express their discontent, saying that little hope had vanished and they would return to their miserable lives. The Count declares that all the mayor's promises are now considered void and that he will appoint a new administrator to command the camp. However, an unexpected voice catches his attention, abruptly interrupting his decision. The Count turns and sees the mayor alive, standing at the entrance, surprising everyone at the scene. The hero firmly states that the election must be postponed because he has returned. The soldiers celebrate, relieved by the mayor's return, seeing hope in the situation. The Count, surprised, admits he feared the worst and was concerned about the hero's disappearance. But the hero apologizes for the delay and explains what happened during his absence. He recounts falling into an ambush by the frogmen shortly after entering the dark swamp, during which Emma was gravely poisoned. The Count, skeptical about negotiating with creatures that lack human language, criticizes the hero for failing to keep his promise and highlights the difficulty of fighting crocodiles without armor. Ignoring the provocation, the hero lays Emma down and responds with a revelation. He informs them that he managed to strike a deal with a peaceful faction of the frogmen. The Count, shocked to hear the word pacifist, barely has time to react to the situation. The hero shouts for something to come out of the shadows, and the atmosphere changes drastically. The trees begin to tremble, and the ground vibrates, indicating that something big is coming. Suddenly, a mushroom golem emerges, carrying mounds of supplies, to everyone's amazement. The soldiers celebrate the hero's enormous achievement, seeing a renewed chance to hunt more crocodiles. The Count, perplexed, asks how something so unbelievable could be possible. The hero requests that the crocodile-killing squad not be dissolved and that his subordinates remain. Still in shock, the Count agrees to maintain the squad and confirms the hero as mayor. On the way back to the castle, the Count reflects on recent events and concludes that it could only be the Tsuyen clan's summoning magic. Frustrated, he decides that Gordon must have allied with the Woodahu, his mortal enemy clan. The Count vows to destroy the Woodahu in memory of his daughter after dealing with his brother Ju-gu. Despite his anger, he decides to spare Gordon temporarily, seeing an opportunity in him, believing he can use him to find the Woodahu's hideout and destroy them. Shadow Ghost suggests attacking the Pure Research Society, but the Count cancels the idea, deciding to wait 3 months, stating that he wants to extort Gordon before killing him. Returning to the camp at dusk, the old man embraces the hero, celebrates the arrival of the supplies, and asks how he convinced the frogmen, mentioning his concern over the hero's 10-day disappearance. Tired, the hero replies that it's a long story and emphasizes the priorities, account of the crocodiles and detailed reports for the grand meeting. The old man suggests a celebration with drinks, but the hero declines, saying there's no time. 8 hours earlier, in a conversation with the Frogman King, the hero explains his family's situation. He reveals that the Count caused the shipwreck of his parents' vessel and manipulated his entire life. The king confirms the Count's cruelty and recalls the past promise not to be hostile to the frogmen after becoming king in exchange for help to kill his brother, Job. Reflecting, the hero says the Count was very cunning in manipulating the frogs without giving any guarantees. The frogmen won the battle, but the Count made an even more absurd request afterward. He demanded the Demon Vortex Stone, a sacred item of the Frogman clan. The king explains that the stone contains a demon that no one can control and could even destroy the entire swamp. Upon refusal, the clan was massacred, and the Count then stole the stone for his purposes so his castle could be built on the clan's destroyed lands. The Frogman King laments being the only survivor but asserts that he made the Count pay a high price. The hero explains to the king that assassinating the Count directly is unfeasible due to his caution but states that his death would leave the Lord's party leaderless. The king says that Ju-gu will take the Abyss Knights and march south to unite the Crocodile Bay Kingdom, and once unified, the next target will be the Swamp Toads. The king agrees, recalling Ju-gu's extermination campaigns and mentioning that Murdo's rise prevented a counterattack. The hero explains that Ju-gu and the Count mutually balance each other, and regardless of which falls first, 2 actions are necessary. The first is to wait until both are dead, and the second is to secretly separate them from their power. The king questions how this would be possible since the Abyss Knights and Murtoa's evil teeth are loyal, doubting that a foreigner could disrupt them. The hero takes a coin, smiles, and replies, "It's simple with this." The king, skeptical, observes and says that humans value money, but the Iron Knights cannot be bought so easily. The hero retorts that money is a neutral but deadly tool in the right hands. He explains that, for a beggar, money is bread, and for an aristocrat, it's jewels. But in his hands, money is the world. Although not fully understanding, the king asks to see money in action and inquires how he can help. The hero responds that he needs poisonous drunken mushrooms from the Mushroom Valley and proposes a trade for parasitized swamp rice. The king laughs and says those mushrooms are trash, smell bad, and he can give them for free. Days later, while the hero relaxes in the pool, thinking of avoiding Mushroom Valley in the future, Woohoo sends a mushroom puppet to his door. Before his meeting, the Baron decides to take a bath to relax a bit. Lan Lu appears in the pool, interrupting his thoughts, saying the Baron had a long journey and needs rest. The hero, with a confident smile, comments that dealing with the mermaid is tiring, but the impressive appearance of the owner doesn't match the disguise of a mage. He begins to suspect her true identity, reflecting that he needs to discover who she really is. To disguise his thoughts, the hero asks her to massage his shoulders, and Lan Lu, happy with the request, believes the Baron is interested in her. And so the owner begins massaging the hero's shoulders. She tries to ensure she's doing a good job, questioning the hero, and he confirms she is. While massaging, she mentions that the Lady of the Shadow Ghost serves Myrtle and warns that dark elves are a cold and dark race. The hero interrupts, asking if Lan Lu doesn't fear the lady hearing them, but she smiles and claims there are no signs of magical essence nearby. However, she quickly realizes she's revealed too much, and the hero notices her slip and asks if she is truly a mage. Lan Lu, embarrassed, admits she never wanted to hide it from him. The hero calmly says he's curious about her story but will respect her silence. To change the subject, he asks about the Dark Elves. Lan Lu hesitates but warns that a dangerous guest has arrived at the palace. Jacqueline, president of the Society of Pure Investigation. The hero recognizes the name and remembers Maria warned him about the Count's explosives and that the materials came from the same organization. Lan Lu corrects the hero, clarifying that the society is not academic but a terrorist organization, warning that a sting from Jacqueline is fatal. Meanwhile, in Jacqueline's suite, a henchman requests permission to teach the mayor a lesson for refusing her the best suite, justifying that the mayor already owes her. The henchman asks permission to use purification number 2. Jacqueline, relaxing, refuses the request, while the henchman complains about the remote hotel, comparing it to better locations. Jacqueline retorts, saying the hotel owner belongs to the Morning Dead family. The henchman, surprised, recalls that the family was wiped out 1,000 years ago with the Demido Magic Empire, and curiously asks how Jacqueline knew about this. Jacqueline responds that she recognizes the unique rosemary aroma of the women from that family. Curious, the henchman asks if Jacqueline had met any women from that family, and she replies that her father was assassinated by a woman from that family. The henchman mentions that the former president died because of the Morning Dead and suggests revenge. Jacqueline rebukes him with a slap in the face. Stepping out of the bathtub, Jacqueline says her father was never afraid of anyone but warned her before he died, saying that no one should mess with that family, especially the women. Jacqueline concludes by saying that the women are all black widows, and those caught by them will die without a doubt. Back at the hotel, the hero announces the feather hunting season, the month of the adventurer. He says the season will begin in 15 days and that everyone should prepare. He explains that this committee is about discovering if they can revitalize the city. He then states that he will send a letter to everyone containing a mission. He promises that at the end of the hunt, besides their own payment, participants will receive 1% of the net profit as a bonus. The team is impressed by the reward, while Lan Lu calculates that if she reaches the target of 100,000 coins, she will earn 1,000 gold coins. The hero declares that the City Revitalization Committee has a goal of 500,000 gold coins in profit, and urges them to be bold and extract every coin from the adventurers. Finally, at a state funeral, the king of the Crocodile City honors the men who died in service to the country. Among the honored are Kevin and Shields, fallen heroes who died in the line of duty. With the end of the meeting, work began in earnest. The old man instructed the soldiers to distribute the exact amount of mushrooms needed to kill crocodiles for one day. This would prevent waste and delays in the operation. The hunt began while other tasks occurred simultaneously. The meat was separated from the armor of the slain crocodiles. The cleaning and deodorizing process for the scales took place without interruption. Precision cuts were made to produce functional armor. All materials were temporarily stored in a warehouse. Then the old man hurried to the hero with bad news. Calmly, the hero deduced the funds had run out, and there was no way to pay the hunters. Surprised, the old man asked how he knew. The hero explained, the team's expansion, combined with the production of 400 sets of armor and the slaying of 3,000 crocodiles, had exhausted the resources. He concluded that the official funds would be depleted by the end of the day. Desperate, the old man asked for an additional 2,000 gold coins to resolve the situation. but the hero firmly stated that he had no money left. Shocked, the old man questioned if he was joking. With seriousness, the hero repeated that he didn't even have a single copper crocodile. In a panic, the old man warned of a mutiny brewing among the hunters, fearing a general strike, but the hero reassured him. Suddenly, the hero asked the old man to punch him, causing even more confusion. The request left the old man bewildered, but the hero insisted, punch him hard in the nose without breaking it. After the punch, the hero gave a speech lamenting before the soldiers. He admitted that he wouldn't be able to pay the promised reward. The team became outraged, questioning why they should remain there since not even the reduced payment would be made. However, one soldier intervened, calling the others ungrateful. He reminded them that the mayor paid far more than the nobles, even with the cuts. He also pointed out that in just a few days, they had earned more than they had in 3 years of farming for the count. The old man reinforced the sentiment, stating that the mayor had never acted like a noble and had always worked and lived alongside them. He urged the hero not to feel guilty, promising to continue working even without payment. The hero thanked him, holding the old man's hand as he cried. Then the hero told the soldiers he wouldn't let them work for free. He took blood from his mouth and wrote on an edict. In the document, he promised to pay everything he owed by the end of the hunting season, stating that if he didn't, he would pay with his life. The team's morale immediately rose, and the hunters, now motivated, resumed their hunt with determination. Satisfied, the hero informed the old man that he needed to judge a cooking competition and left the scene with a smile on his face. In the main square, Lan Lu announced the first Crocodile City cooking competition. She highlighted the proximity of the feather hunting season. She explained they would choose the most special crocodile dish, and then introduce the judges. The first was the mayor, a friend of the people, encouraging participants to showcase their style. The second was Miss Dibbs, a red wolf subhuman with an extremely sensitive palate, who joked that she would cut the tendons of anyone who didn't cook properly. Lan Lu laughed, trying to calm the competitors, saying she was just kidding. The third judge was Count Murdo, whose presence unsettled the participants. Murmurs spread, with people claiming the hero invited the count just to flatter him. The rules were simple. Each competitor would receive a whole crocodile without armor to prepare, and each judge would taste the dishes and give an evaluation. Each judge would make a gesture. If the dish pleased them, they would show a 0, otherwise, they would display an X. Each 0 would earn the competitor 1 gold coin, and the winners could open food stalls in the central square during the hunting season. The crowd reacted enthusiastically, eager to avoid having to cook at home. Finally, as the contest begins, Lan Lu announces that the event is sponsored by the Big Onion. While the dishes are being prepared, the count questions the hero about why he didn't let Miss Dibbs or the royal chef organize the event. The hero explains that his goal was to create income opportunities for the people in a town with little arable land and dependent on the count. Most residents remain poor, making tax collection increasingly difficult over time. The hero highlighted the city's strategic advantage near the Circle of Purgatory, which attracted adventurers semi-annually, with the potential to make it a thriving coastal hub. Services such as food, lodging, and commerce could flourish. The hero concluded, if the people are wealthy, the count will be too. Impressed, the count called the hero a money-making machine, and acknowledged the wisdom in inviting him as a judge. Finally, the hero made a direct request, saying he wanted some of the count's men to help him. Intrigued, the count asked who he desired. With a manipulative smile, the hero requested the 4 evil teeth and the subhuman from the rocky termite tribe responsible for mining. The count observes the hero and says he is very well informed, mentioning that the hero even knows about the 4 evil teeth and the subhuman rock rabbits. The hero downplayed the count's concerns and revealed he had learned about the rock rabbits during his population investigation. The hero explains that the count arrived after his brother, the king, blocked the iron ore trade to prevent the mass production of weapons and armor. To solve the problem, the count attacked a tribe of rock rabbits, captured their leader, and forced them to mine the mountains under coercion. The hero comments that to completely frustrate his brother's plans, the count's vision will need to be much greater. He concludes by saying it will be an honor to stand by the count when he becomes king. Satisfied, the count says it is a privilege to have the talent of Mayor Gao Deng, but adds that if he cannot convince him, he will have to refuse the proposal. The hero ignores the provocation and proposes digging 8 giant vaults to store crocodile meat, as without a storage plan, thousands of tons would rot due to the hot and humid climate. These vaults would be built on the city's outskirts, and he asks Miss Maria and other mermaids to use ice magic to cool the vaults. The hero concludes by saying that with sub-zero temperatures, the crocodile meat will remain fresh much longer. Meanwhile, far away, 2 mermaids converse cheerfully. One of them suddenly sneezes, and the other approaches, asking what happened. She says she felt a strange chill, like a bad omen. The other laughs, saying ice mermaids don't feel cold. The scene returns to the count, who reflects on the proposal. He agrees to ask Maria and the other mermaids for help in building the ice vaults. The hero highlights that conflicts among adventurers during feather hunting season cause deaths, losses, and discourage returns, affecting local traffic and the economy. To prevent this, he proposes reinforcing security during the season. The hero suggests appointing Hammer, one of the four evil teeth, as the town sheriff. The Count's presence will intimidate troublemakers and attract powerful adventurers willing to ally with him. The Count reflects on previous year's problems, following the principle of avoiding unnecessary conflicts, and had always chosen not to intervene. However, convinced by the hero's arguments, he promises to bring Hammer in a few days. Satisfied, the hero proposes recruiting 7 assassins, a member of the 4 evil teeth and a record holder for captures during feather hunting season. For this reason, the hero requests his company to explore the Circle of Purgatory, saying an early visit will help familiarize themselves with the terrain and hunting methods. With this information, it will be possible to draft a suitable reception plan for adventurers. The Count acknowledges the idea but warns that 7 assassins, a free spirit, is hard to locate, and his cooperation will depend solely on the hero's ability to convince him. The hero asks the Count if he hates the purgatory. The Count grumbles, saying that guy hates sweating and avoids any physical effort whenever possible. With this in mind, the hero decides to take Miss Maria, who masters ice magic. As the plan is laid out, the cooking contest proceeds. Participant number 3, Yuto, finishes his dish 20 minutes before the deadline, and Lan Lu presents him to the audience. Yuto brings his dish to the judge's stand. He presents his creation, Crocodile 9-turn sausage. The dish is served to the judges, and Mayor Gao Deng is the first to taste it. Although he detests offal, the mayor feigns enthusiasm to maintain appearances. With the confident gaze of the cook, the hero reflects on how secure the man seems about his cooking. As he cuts the meat, he notices an unpleasant smell but does not hesitate. The Baron questions whether they can actually eat the dish due to its odor. He chews the dish but finds it so terrible that it feels like swallowing excrement. Discreetly, he spits it out while covering his mouth with a cloth. Despite his disappointment, he encourages the competitor to keep improving through effort, forcing a smile and praising the chef's courage. Next to taste is the judge, Miss Dibbs. Before she tries the dish, the organizer, Lan Lu, warns her to maintain a kind expression. Miss Dibbs asks the cook if he tasted his own food. The cook affirms that he did, and she follows up by asking what he thought of it. He explains that he removed the fishy smell from the intestines but left a small part, believing it would enhance the chewing experience. Dibbs questions whether he did this on purpose, and he responds that he skipped a significant part of the cleaning process. Pressing further, Dibbs asks if this was intentional or accidental, and the cook insists it was intentional. Dibbs cuts the meat, brings it to her mouth, and chews with great difficulty. Cold sweat trickles down her face as if she's in tremendous pain. However, something awakens within her, a fierce expression lighting up her eyes. Our video ends here. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, bye bye.